Will moved you.
So you put me next to the donuts.
I don't think. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Manatee Legislative Delegation meeting to order. Amanda, will you please call the roll?
Senator Gruters,
Here.
Representative Robinson,
Here.
Representative Gregory,
Here.
Representative Beltran,
Here.
Chair Boyd.
Here. Thank you, Amanda, and we do have a quorum. Everyone is present. We'll speak to that in just a minute, but to begin, Will, would you mind leading us in invocation?
Sure, please stand. And by the way, I heard this prayer for the first time by former Representative Bill Grimes, late Bill Grimes, on September 11th, 2002. So it's very impactful for me. Let us pray. Almighty God, we pray for strength, and you send us difficulties and burdens, and it is then we discover the carrying of this load makes us strong. Father God, we pray for wisdom. You send us problems, and it is then we discover finding the solution to those problems develops wisdom. We pray for courage. You send us dangers to overcome, and it is then we discover that if not for the dangers, courage would not be necessary. We pray for prosperity, and you send us an economy that goes up and down. It is only then that what is revealed to us real values and enduring treasures. We pray for favors, and you send us opportunities to do good for all mankind, and it is then we discover that we are as happy as we wish others to be. We thank you, Lord, for using the experiences of life to teach us these things, and God, help us live up to our capabilities. We are now grateful for the gifts given, and forgiven we are grateful. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Representative Gregory, will you lead us in the pledge?
Please turn to the flag and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm going to mention just a couple of quick things, and then I'd like for the members to introduce themselves. But first of all, we have an expanded delegation, which we're glad to have. It was the past 2 years, it's been Representative Gregory, Representative Robinson, and myself, and now we have Representative Beltran and Senator Gruters that are also part of our community. So that's always good, and it strengthens our delegation and allows us to hopefully serve the community even better. So welcome, and we'll let you guys all speak in just a second. A couple of quick things too in terms of just housekeeping before we begin. These mics, members, are hot all the time. There's not ability to turn them on and off. So if you say anything bad about me, everyone in the audience will hear it. Just making you aware of that. But just so you know, and I think you can turn away from them, perhaps, and you maybe not caught, but it's they're going to be on. They're going to be on the whole time. And guests, we're so glad you're here today. We have a pretty robust agenda. Everybody will have 3 minutes to speak to the issue that's important to them, and we will be keeping time on that to be respectful to those behind you that would like to speak as well. If you're here and have asked to speak on a couple of different topics, you will have 3 minutes apiece on those topics. If it's a personal issue, that would go to public comment a little bit later in the meeting. But would encourage you, if you're speaking on a topic for a couple of different groups, but it's the same message, maybe consolidate it. But I think we've got enough time this morning to get through the agenda, so we'll try to be fair and as helpful along those lines as we can. But we do need to keep track of the time we speak. And we are scheduled to adjourn at noon, which we will do because we've announced to everyone in the community this is the time frame for the meeting. So with that said, let's have some introductions so you get to know all of us a little bit. We'll start with Senator Gruters, and then we'll go to Senator Robinson, and then I'll finish up. Senator Gruters.
Thank you, Chairman. I started my political career right here in Manatee as a House member, and so I'm glad to be back, part of this great delegation. You guys are all superstars, and I look forward to going up to Tallahassee and representing all of you. Mayor, thank you, and I see a lot of elected officials out there. Just can't wait to go to bat for Manatee up in Tallahassee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for calling me Senator. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, well, that's okay. It's just a pleasure to be here for now my 5th Manatee delegation hearing. We had some redistricting. We had redistricting last session, so I no longer represent a piece of Sarasota County. So this is my sole delegation. It was nice to actually walk here from my law office. I'm getting my steps in, Mr. Chairman. But I'm looking forward to these next 2 years and really looking forward to the issues that you're going to bring in front of us today. Certainly your needs, your funding requests, your policy concerns, because that's where good policy develops, is hearing from our constituents what your concerns are. And we're ready, like Senator Gruder said, to go to bat for you in Tallahassee. So I'm very excited. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm also glad Senator Gruders is here. He handed off the district that I represent, or did represent, for the last 4 years when he moved on to the Senate. So I'm glad to have him here and, carry on that tradition. Went from Stubbe to Gruders to me. I have been representing you those 4 years and still represent you primarily Eastern Manatee County, but also glad to welcome Representative Mike Beltran as he takes over a portion of that district on the north side. There's some meetings that you think, man, I don't want to go to that meeting. How many more times are we going to meet? How long is it going to last? We meet too often. This meeting doesn't happen enough, probably, right? And it lasts 3 hours, but those 3 hours go quickly because the needs are so great. So we look forward to hearing from you, and this is a meeting we look forward to because it's how we stay connected to represent you in Tallahassee.
All right. Well, good morning, and thank you all for the warm welcome. My name is Mike Beltran. I represent portions of Manatee County that are north of the Manatee River, basically between 75 and Fort Hammer. I've got the port and the mall. I have the jail. I got Piney Point, all that kind of that coastal sliver there, and then I represent portions of South Hillsborough as well. So I am new to the delegation. It's great to be representing a portion of Manatee County and be with you all today. I've done a lot of legal work in the courthouse here, so a lot of good memories of being in Bradenton, and look forward to coming down in this capacity and seeing you all in the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you, and colleagues, and I'm Jim Boyd. I represent Senate District 20, which is, most of Manatee County and Eastern Hillsborough County. My colleague, Senator Gruder, snuck up here and grabbed a little bit of Manatee County from me in this last redistricting. So he has south of State Road 70 in Manatee County, and I have north of State Road 70. But as everyone knows, with our population explosion in Florida, the districts have grown, and we have to do it by certain numbers as a result of reapportionment. So that's the way it shakes out. But I'm thrilled to have my friend and my good friend and colleague, Senator Gruders, with me in the Senate here, and also my colleagues in the House. I will tell you, I believe, everybody across the state may say this, but we have one of the strongest, best delegations, I think, in the state legislature. Everybody gets along, everybody works well together, and everybody's fighting for you and for our community. So it's a privilege and an honor for me to serve with these fine folks, and I know they feel the same way about serving you. So thank you all for what you do to make our jobs in Tallahassee a little easier, a little more collegiate, and I look forward to working with you all this year for good things for our community, and certainly with our community friends and partners in doing what is necessary for this community. And then finally, before we begin, I'd like to thank Mayor Brown and Rob, and Bill's not here. Bill helped, as you know, get us all set up today working with Amanda. So thank you all for hosting us and making your nice council chambers available to us. So we greatly appreciate that. And also thank you to Kathy Galia, my chief legislative aide, and Amanda Romont, who's our office administrator and gal that takes care of everything at home while we're in Tallahassee. Thank you all for getting us to this point. You may think it's easy. We just announce a meeting and then we come and we talk and then we go. These folks put everything together, and as you can see from the binders and the interaction from the community, there's a lot to it. So thank you all very much for your efforts in getting us ready for today. We appreciate it very much. Certainly, rest of the staff is helpful as well. And y'all had your turn, and if you haven't, you will. So just look forward to that. So with no further ado, we'll get right into the agenda. The first thing on our agenda today is local bills, and we have 3. So without further ado, Representative Robinson, would you present the first bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill relates to the North River Fire District. Frankly, this issue was brought to me by a constituent, and we met, and I believe Senator Gruder, or Senator Boyd, you met with this gentleman as well. This local bill creates a small statutory change to ensure that nonprofits like churches or schools are exempt from being assessed. As you all recall, when you're property is tax exempt, you have no property taxes on it. So there's some unclarity or ambiguity in this special district as to whether or not this fire district can assess properties that are tax exempt. And so that is the bill, Mr. Chair.
Members, other questions? Seeing no questions, is there public comment on the bill? Seeing no public comment, is there debate? Seeing no debate, we'll vote. All in favor of the bill, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Show the bill passes. Thank you, Representative Robinson, and we'll move to the next one, Anna Maria Island parking.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill would allow Manatee County to construct parking facilities within the territory boundaries of Anna Maria Island, where it is deemed necessary for the public health, safety, and welfare of our citizens. And just to give a little background, if I may, Mr. Chairman, back in June 11th, actually, of 2020, former President Bill Galvano and myself sent a letter to the mayor of Holmes Beach regarding our concerns about street parking that had been removed under the guise of COVID. So unfortunately, nothing has been done since that letter. We along yourself and myself and Chair Van Ostenbridge and others had a very good meeting back in May where we discussed, frankly, a huge issue to this community, which is beach access and beach parking. And there are a number of issues that are causing this problem, and frankly, our community is growing. But parking is at a minimum on this island. And we had a very good meeting, like I said, with all the city mayors, with the chairman, and we came out of that meeting with really two ideas. One idea was to look at whether or not, for instance, a church could rent out its parking lot on days of the week that a church isn't meeting. Or secondly, whether or not a parking garage could be built somewhere on the island. And I thought those ideas were received very well. There wasn't, frankly, any commitments made at that time. But since that meeting, the city of Holmes Beach passed an ordinance, frankly, 2 months later, banning the ability for a parking garage to be built within its jurisdiction. Frankly, Mr. Chairman, this bill really covers two areas within the island of Anna Maria. It would be at the terminus of State Road 64, where the public beach is right now, and at Coquina Beach. And frankly, I am disturbed by the lack of parking spaces available on that island that, in my view, have been strategically eliminated bit by bit to not allow citizens to access and to visit the island. And this is only one approach. There are other, and frankly, we talked to the mayors about long-term, short-term solutions, and this is only one solution. But I think it's incumbent upon this delegation to show we care about beach access, we care about beach parking, because, as we're dealing with, frankly, the Biden inflation and costs are going up. People aren't going on vacations. They're not going on fancy vacations. They're going to the beach. And it's frustrating for my constituents to not even be able to park at the beach. They circle around and they go home. And I think that's done purposefully. And I think, frankly, there are some on the island that think it's their private island. And it's not. It's our island. Our tax dollars go for it. So, Mr. Chairman, this would preempt the authority of the island municipalities to ban a parking garage. Now, it is limited. If you see in the bill, it's limited to 4 stories in the height, and so there are limitations. I know height issues are a big concern on the island, as they are for me. So there are some guardrails. So I would call this a very surgical local preemption bill, and that's the bill, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Members, other questions? Seeing no questions or public comment? Yes, sir. If you would come up and state your name and who you represent, and then begin. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. My name is Terry Schaefer. I'm a commissioner at Holmes Beach. I was not aware this was on the agenda this morning, nor was, I don't believe, our mayor aware. I was here to talk about legislative priorities. But I would like to suggest to the delegation that the actions taken by our commission last year were a result of numerous years of complaints from our constituency, those who we live with. It's a city, it's an island that we're making every effort to maintain hospitality and a balance of both tourism and a retention of full-time citizens. Without full-time citizens, this island is going to lose the charm that is the magnet for people coming to the island. And although I understand the benefit on the short term of the parking garage, I would remind you that it is a very short-term solution in that the crisis with regard to breaking down of infrastructure with some 35,000 cars a day coming into our city, into Holmes Beach, is having a very detrimental effect on infrastructure. It's having a very definite and sometimes detrimental effect to many of our neighbors. The reasons that the restrictions in parking occurred was from many years of complaints from those citizens who live on those streets who had to contend with garbage, improper use of hoses, swimming pools, and a myriad of items left in their yards. It also resulted in some constriction in some of our more narrow streets that had an adverse effect on emergency vehicles. So although I realize this morning that this is going to pass, it's a very short-term solution, gentlemen. And I would ask that the delegation and the legislation in the future give consideration to the point that our island is only 7 miles long. It only has so much capacity. The continued growth and expansion of our county and our region is resulting in unexpected and continued traffic, and those problems find themselves at the doorstep of commissions like our own. I'd also like to remind the delegation that we exceed the parking requirements of both our interlocking agreements with Manatee County and with the state of Florida. So it's not as if we have lowered the requirements that are written agreements with both county and state government. And I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other public comment?
Glenn Gibolina for the record. Good to see you all here. I agree with this commission and that proposal. Those folks had decades to straighten this problem out. They never stepped up to the plate. And you're right, we have 7 miles. They have 7 miles out there. It's Florida law that every citizen in this state is allowed to walk those 7 miles unrestricted. That's a Florida statute. Now, if we can't park anywhere to walk those beautiful 7 miles, then you have to do something about it. They've had their chance. You guys have gone above and beyond trying to come to agreement with these folks, and they haven't done it. But I don't hear anything about the Airbnbs when they have, 30 people in a house and there's parking up and down the street, but that's okay, I guess, right, because of the income. No, stand your ground. Let's move forward with this, and fire a warning shot to the rest of the beach communities that if you don't try to make the coastline available to everybody, there are consequences for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Andrew Griffin, Manatee County. I am absolutely in support of a bill like this. I have been out to Holmes Beach. I've tried to address the mayor. I've tried to address the council members. They were combative and they were rude to me. They have taken a COVID lockdown and they have extended it way past its rightful date. They have done this intentionally. I'm a generational here. My family has been here before Manatee County was Manatee County. And I have watched people that come here from other states take over stuff that I once enjoyed. I can't go out there. I haven't been able to park at the beach in years, yet I have been paying taxes here for literally probably as long as this county has been open. So this is the right answer. This has to stop. This is not your property. It's all of ours.
Ms. Griffin, let's make it.
And so I hope that we can move this to the right direction. I think this bill is very good and very much warranted. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Members, is there any debate? Senator Gruters.
Yeah, Chairman, real quick. First, I understand where the commissioners are coming from, and they're representing their constituencies and doing the best job that they can with who they're dealing with out there. But Representative Robinson, I want to commend you with putting public access putting it as a priority, because I do think the beaches belong to everybody, and I do think we should do everything we can to allow not only the tourists but our residents go out there and enjoy Florida's natural beauty. So thank you for bringing this up.
Thank you, Senator. Any other? Representative Beltran.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Representative, for this good bill. I just want to address a couple of concerns. I mean, what I'm hearing from the public commentary is that there's inadequate infrastructure to accommodate the increasing numbers of folks who are coming to the beach here in Manatee County. And what the suggestion or the proposal by Representative Robinson is to increase that infrastructure, at least regarding the parking facilities. I don't think there's any dispute there's some congestion on this beach, and we're trying to address that. And to the point that several of my colleagues have made in some of the public commentary, that things like the beaches, the ports, other either natural or man-made infrastructure that we have, they are to be shared by everyone. My constituents do come down to this beach. There's not a lot of. We have the port, we have the jail, we have Piney Point. We have very limited beach access, notwithstanding the coastal nature character of my district. And so, we do look to that beach. It is the closest beach to my district, where there's 7 miles or even 1 mile or even half a mile of beach access. And so that's what we need to access. And what everyone said, that there's a lack of parking, is consistent with my experience and experience of my constituents. So I'll be supporting the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd like to just say something as well. I don't want to be redundant. Commissioner Schaefer, with all due respect, we, in good faith, had meetings with the mayor and with the other leaders of the island communities. We walked away from that meeting trying to have a compromise and some agreement on where we should go as a community. You know, we up here not only represent the 25% or so of property owners that live year-round on Anna Maria Island, on the entire island, we also represent the other 75% of the property owners that either it's a vacation home, a family home, or a rental home or something of that like. So we have to look out for everyone. And we went away from that meeting with what I thought, and Representative Robinson, I'm taking it from Senator to Commissioner, so I don't know which is better, but having been a commissioner, maybe that's not so bad.
Not so bad.
But anyway, so we went away from that meeting with, I thought, an agreement that specifically Holmes Beach would look at lessening some of the restrictions that were put on parking. There were some roads out there that maybe were a little aggressive in terms of non-parking areas. And in fact, those just grew after we left the meeting, not shrunk, the no parking areas. And then Representative Robinson hit it with the parking garage. We had an agreement, not a written agreement, but a kind of a verbal look at each other in the eye agreement, that we would pursue parking garage somewhere on the island that was acceptable to everyone. And the church issue was another one. And that was just completely undone as almost when we left the meeting. So in my view, we have no other choice but to step up and look out for our entire community, those that want to enjoy the beach and those that don't live there full time, that want to come out and enjoy it. So I support this as well, and you're recognized to close on it if you need to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the discussion. And I do agree, this is just one piece, and it may be short term, it may be a medium term. We got to continue to look at the parking issues all along the island. So for me, this is kind of like a first step. The actions of Holmes Beach forced the city of Anna Maria to shut down streets as well. And so it's just become a mess. And we have massive state investment coming in over those two bridges. We're going to have two brand new bridges. One's in litigation, but we're going to have two brand new bridges probably at some point. So it's incumbent upon us to make sure that investment is not only protected, but to make sure folks can access the beach. Is this the sole answer? Absolutely not. I agree with you that the population increases and frankly, the great job that you guys are doing with the beach community in certain areas allows people to want to visit the beach. So this is just the first step, Mr. Chairman. I think it's an important step, and I ask your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner, we had public comment. You were able to speak, but we're in a vote now, so I'd say it's inappropriate at this point to. So you can speak in your comments later on in the agenda if you would like. All in favor of the bill say yes?
Aye.
Yes. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so the bill passes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I bring up an issue? It's not on the agenda, but kind of related. So as I was looking a little bit more into the island and peeling the onion, I got to look at, and frankly, politicians are criticized for not being forward-thinking. And I think that's a fair criticism. And we, as part of this legislative session, have been charged by the Senate President and our Speaker to be forward-looking in terms of infrastructure, in terms of water. And I am very, very happy about the direction that we're going, because folks always complain, understandably, that we don't have a plan, either locally or statewide. And so it's incumbent upon us to have a plan. And as I looked at the three island cities, we have three island cities: the city of Anna Maria, the city of Bradenton Beach, and the city of Holmes Beach. And we can have a debate on why, but the population for those three cities has significantly gone down over the past 20 years. For instance, the city of Anna Maria's population has dropped 50%. The city of Bradenton Beach's population has dropped 50%. The city of Holmes Beach's population has dropped 40% over the past 20 years. If you look at the cities that surround it, Longboat Key has maintained its population. The city of Sarasota has increased its population. The city of Bradenton has increased its population. So folks are moving off the island and going to the mainland or moving elsewhere. And even with the reduction in population for, let's say, the city of Holmes Beach, their budget has gone from, has gone from 15 million in 18-19 to 25 million this past year. So, does it make sense to continue to have three small island communities with different bureaucracies, with different levels of government? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there. But I think it's incumbent upon this delegation and, frankly, the state to study the issue, to see what the options are. Should we have one city over the island? Should we have two? Should we have three? Maybe the answer is three, or maybe the answer is zero. I don't know what the answer is, but I think because of the population decreases and the issues that I feel we're having with overregulation, I think we need to look at this. We have a state agency that can look into this for us and hopefully bring back a report. So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion. I move that an APAGA study, which is the Office of Program Policy Analysis and Government Accountability, or some equivalent, be commissioned to study Anna Maria Island's governing structure and present options to this delegation for consideration in time for the 2024 legislative session.
Second motion, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll move in, we have one more local bill, and I believe Representative Gregory, is that you? Who's?
I think there's someone here to
Okay.
speak about the bill, Chairman.
That is great.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the delegation. My name is Jonathan Johnson. I practice law with the law firm of Q-Tech Rock. We're here on behalf of Medallion Homes to request that you approve the proposed local bill, which would establish the charter and create a stewardship district over property which is generally located south of State Road 64, west of County Road 679, and north of 61st Avenue. One stewardship district means less government on the property while still delivering the level of special district land secured financing services that we need. That is in lieu of multiple community development districts that you would otherwise see on a project this size. I know you're all familiar, and I would call your attention to similar successful local projects such as Lakewood Ranch and North River Ranch, all of which use the stewardship district mechanism and have been before this delegation in prior years, as well as projects down the road such as Ave Maria and Babcock Ranch. I would note that not only does the local bill provide for greater efficiency and less cost by having one district mechanism, it's also economic development in its purest sense. I know you're all familiar with RCLCO, who annually publishes their list of the most successful real estate projects. Lakewood Ranch is always at the top, as are the other projects I've mentioned. All of those use a stewardship district or similar mechanism, as well as West Villages. For the record, Manatee County has considered the bill and issued the letter of no objection that is required by Chapter 189. So today I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but would appreciate your support and look forward to working with you all in Tallahassee.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, and clearly you were noted here on my agenda that you were going to present the bill, so I apologize for that. Questions, members? Seeing no questions, is there public comment?
For the record, Glenn Giuliano, Manatee County. I'm not going to burn up a lot of time. All these developers come in front of you, and they change the comp plan, the future agenda plan. Where's the affordable housing component in any of these plans? They keep building market rate houses, our first responders. Nobody can afford to live out there. So until there is an affordable housing component in all legislation, I don't care if it's 10%, show some effort for the people, first of all, the thousands of construction workers that build them but that can't afford to live there, for the firemen that go out to protect them that can't afford to live there, first responders and sheriffs, all entry-level positions cannot live in these communities. So if they're going to move forward with this grandiose plan, there has to be an affordable workforce housing component. And I have yet to see them step up to the plate and offer one home that would be affordable or attainable to our entry-level first responders. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, members, is there debate? Seeing no debate, all in favor of the local bill, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Show the bill passes. Thank you. And before we move into the the meat of the agenda, members, I want to make you aware, if you need to step out, there are staff restrooms right through this door. There's a little pass here on the counter that will get you in and out. Sorry to make that so public, but I'd hate to lose you for a period of time if you couldn't find your way around. So thank you, and thanks our friends at City for making that available to us. All right, with no further ado, we will move into the first part of the agenda. And the first up is Mayor Gene Brown, City of Braden. Welcome, Mayor. Again.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, sir. Thank you, and thank you, Senators, for being here, representatives for coming today. And I think as we see government working, we don't always agree on everything, but we work together to make it better for our citizens in our state. So I just want to thank you for being here, and I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Perry to kind of go through the City of Bradenton part of it for the legislative priorities, but I just wanted to welcome you and thank you for being in our beautiful city. And hopefully, as we work through the next couple of years with the City of Bradenton, next time you come, we might have a microphone you can turn on or off. So as we get into the new technologies and buildings. So thank you, Mr. Perry.
We appreciate the hospitality, Mayor.
Thank you, Chairman Boyd, Senators, Representatives. It's so good to have you here in Bradenton at our chambers. Welcome, and I hope we're a good host. Our council is here with us, many of them. Councilwoman Barnaby, Councilwoman Coker, and I saw newly elected Councilman Kramer, who's a former assistant chief with many years of experience at the city. I want to just take a couple, 3 or 4 minutes and talk about the city's agenda before us and some of the challenges that we're facing here in Bradenton. Of course, we're talking about growth in this general area, and Bradenton is not a mystery to that growth. We're experiencing a great deal of growth, infrastructure challenges, and the like. And we've really focused on doing some of the things that Representative Robinson was talking about. Foresight, a 25-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 1-year plan. And so we're working on those types of growth issues as it relates to core infrastructure. And when you make investments in us by assisting us with our capital or our policy, I think there's an expectation that we be realistic in what we can do, that we be meaningful, and we be thoughtful. And I think our management, both politically and organizational management, is trying to do that. We're trying to step up our game here in Bradenton and be the core of Manatee County. Jim's going to talk a little bit about these projects. Jim is a public works director. He's chief of engineering, master's level engineer. He has some capital projects very quickly. He's going to take about a minute, talk about those projects. I want to thank you, Senator Boyd, for coming to our presentation on the Public Safety Operations Center. Members, you have a book with that in front of you. We'll be requesting some assistance with that to match some of our state money going into that. What we're basically trying to do is provide a forward operating platform for emergency management. When we experienced Hurricane Ian, we all know that we're lucky, but luck runs out. And in Bradenton, along with Manatee County, we serve a high hazard coastal area. The islands themselves that we talked about, the river and estuaries surrounding us. And so that's a project that's fairly well described in that book, and we intend to provide that as a forward operating platform to basically provide preparation, rescue, recovery, resiliency, continuity to the area. So it's a regional project. Jim, if you could just briefly talk about some of our projects at Public Works.
Sure. Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to the friendly city. Jim McClellan, Director of Public Works and Utilities for the City of Bradenton. We have 3 primary utility projects that are our priorities associated with legislative assistance. All are aimed at providing resiliency for our utility systems. The primary one is we are in the midst of a 5-year program to line 60 miles of our old clay sewer pipes to minimize the amount of infiltration of groundwater into our system that overloads our wastewater treatment plant. Last year, we were fortunate to have a legislative appropriation that helped us line 15 miles of pipe in that first year of the program, and we're going to continue with that, and so we're hoping to have some additional assistance with that one. In addition to that, we have identified a number of our sewage lift stations that are located at low-lying areas that aren't equipped currently with fixed backup power generation. We have mobile units that we bring into them, but because of their locations in relation to low-lying areas, they often are difficult to get to during storm events, and therefore we're looking to put permanent standby power generation at these facilities. We are in the process of pursuing an SRF loan through the DEP that will help us with that, and looking for additional assistance through the legislative appropriation to help minimize those costs and maybe let us do more with the amount of money that we're going to get. And lastly, we have a program that we're in the process of doing citywide. All of our storm sewer system discharges to tidal waters. In those low-lying areas where those tidal waters back up through that storm sewer system, even when it's not raining, high tide can back up through those storm sewers and cause flooding in localized streets, which becomes a hazard to the citizens that live along these low-lying areas. We're in the process of putting in check valves, tide check valves on all of our outfall pipes for the storm sewer systems, and we'll be seeking assistance through the program to supplement the money that we're budgeting for all of this process to be able to help us accelerate that process. So those are the 3 primary projects that we're looking for assistance for.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming again. And I know time is of the essence, so we'll yield. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We look forward to working with you all. I personally have talked to you and the mayor on the priorities for Bradenton, and I know my colleagues would love to hear about them as well, so we will do our best to try to help any way we can. Thank you.
Look forward.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for your work and talent.
Thanks again for your hospitality. Next up, we have the Manatee County Government Commission Chairman Kevin Van Ostenbridge. Welcome, Chairman.
Thank you, Senator, and I guess I could say thank you, Chairman, today. And thank you, honorable members of the delegation, for being here today. Let me just get my PowerPoint pulled up here. We had intended to do this on the screen, but apparently technology is not cooperating today. So in the spirit of your Speaker and your Senate President, who are asking you to be forward-thinking when it comes to infrastructure, that is also the shared spirit of the Manatee County Commission. We are one of the fastest-growing counties in the entire country, and as a result, we have significant infrastructure shortcomings and quite a bit of catching up to do when it comes to our local infrastructure. The county has invested considerably. We've bonded. We have a lot of skin in the game when it comes to transportation infrastructure in this county. So we don't want you to think that we're simply coming to you hat in hand, not by any means. The county is investing in itself, and we have what we call the Big 6 road projects. I signed a bond of roughly $250 million to invest in transportation infrastructure. We have some bridges on the list, and we have some roads on the list. So I'll start off with the Fort Hammer Road. We'll provide the longest continuous north-south route east of I-75 in Manatee County. It will provide an important regional connection between Manatee, Sarasota, and Hillsborough counties. It connects, of course, to Lakewood Ranch Boulevard, and then to the north, as we continue to push the road to the Hillsborough County line, we anticipate a future interchange on I-75 to help relieve in-town traffic and as a direct interstate reliever as well. There are 2 parts to this project. Section 1 is from the Manatee River to US 301. It is widening 3 miles from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, and Section 2 is from Moccasin Wallow Road to 301. So that section is essentially completed now by the county. We're looking for help with Section 1. we need design funds. So Manatee County is requesting $4 million appropriation in state fiscal year 2023 for 50% of design funding for the Fort Hamer Road from the Manatee River to US 301. And again, county dollars being contributed to this project as well. Then the second portion of this, or another portion of this, is the Fort Hamer Bridge itself. The county has already embarked on 4-laning Upper Manatee Road from State Road 64 up to the Manatee River. It is actually the first project in our pipeline for our Big Six projects, as we feel it is has the greatest amount of need currently. But once you reach the bridge, you reach a 2-lane bottleneck. So Manatee County, at its own expense, has built the existing bridge, and now we're looking for matching dollars for an additional bridge to make that into a 4-lane thoroughfare all the way through from county line to county line. So we request funding for design and permitting for the second Fort Hamer Bridge, which will run parallel to the existing bridge. This is a critical north-south capacity enhancer that will connect East Manatee County. It will be a reliever to I-75 and provides regional connections amongst Manatee, Sarasota, and Hillsborough County. We intentionally are seeking state and federal funding for this bridge because the fact that it is a reliever to a federal highway. We've invested in we feel are local roads, and we're coming to you for help and support in a local road that will ultimately relieve a state and federal road, because you can only add so many lanes to I-75 in the end. And we know that local traffic, commuter traffic, is what is congesting I-75. So we're asking for a $3 million appropriation in state fiscal year 2023 for a 50% design match and permitting funding for the Fort Hamer Bridge capacity improvements. Next is 44th Avenue East. This will be a continuous route from Bradenton Beach east to suburban Manatee County. And to be a little more specific, when we're finished with this, you'll be able to drive from the Beach House Restaurant all the way to Hunsader Farms. And that will be an essential arterial, east-west arterial for Manatee County. It provides direct relief for State Roads 64 and State Road 70. And this section is a key component to sustained growth in Manatee County as the parallel roads are becoming too congested. Manatee County has received prior funding totaling $34.5 million, but we face escalated costs due to inflation and to supply chain issues. Roughly, we're looking for 10% of the project costs here. So it's a $10 million appropriation in fiscal year 23 for partial construction funding of the 44th Avenue East connection.
You know what that means?
Oh, I've got a long way to go, sir.
Well, if you could kind of,
I will.
in respect to the rest behind you, if you
I
could
will.
just wrap it up soon.
Moccasin Wallow Road. We're all familiar with Moccasin Wallow. It's provide continuous 4-lane road from 41 to I-75 interchange all the way to Parrish. We're requesting $8 million in appropriations for partial construction funding of Moccasin Wallow. Manatee County Area Transit Route 99 operations. The request, the route, just so you understand, is continuous service from downtown Bradenton and Palmetto areas to our universities and down to our airport. We're requesting $1.1 million one-time capital appropriation for 23 and $1.7 million in recurring appropriation in 24 and each of the years following that. The idea is to increase the frequency of the route from 30 minutes to 15 minutes. Other than the Island Trolley, it is our most widely used route. We are asking for not for appropriations, but that you encourage state agencies that already have us in the pipeline for some major projects, such as the DeSoto Bridge replacement, the bridges to Anna Maria Island, and the Gulf Coast Recreational Trail Partnership. We're asking you to encourage those state agencies to keep us in the pipeline and keep that funding stream coming. And then we have some policy requests. Workforce and affordable housing, of course, Sadowski Fund. We also have broadband. And lastly, sir, if you give me just a moment, I would like to speak on community-based foster care. Okay. Community-based foster care, we are asking for you to ultimately support and Senate Bill 1326 was passed during the 2020 legislative session, and we feel that it will sufficiently fund foster care in this community. There are 23,000 children in the state who are in the foster care system. Manatee County has a disproportionate number of children. We've come in fourth 2 out of the last 5 years in the number of children removed from homes, and it is the lack of funding is starting to affect how case managers are dealing with the foster care system. At times, even trying to keep children in the home that they would prefer removed from the home. And it's becoming a dangerous situation. And as you know, sir, and members of the delegation, foster children, this is a core function of government. These children are wards of the state. They are not the responsibility of anyone other than the community, and the state by definition. They are our responsibility. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a quick question,
Yeah,
Mr.
sure,
Chairman?
of course.
And this is the first I've heard of this, Mr. Chairman, about another bridge. I mean, we know as soon as that bridge, the Fort Hammer Bridge opened up, we needed more capacity. I mean, is that really, I mean, we know how long that bridge took to get, I mean, years, decades probably. I mean, is that a realistic item for us to try to accomplish, another bridge right next to it? Or
So
what is your view on that?
Yes, sir. We understand that it was a long haul to get the first bridge accomplished. First of all, I would tell you, if you don't plant the tree today, then it doesn't get planted and you never have shade. But there was a well-connected resident living adjacent to the bridge itself who had DC connections and utilized his connections with the Coast Guard to hamper the county's ability to get permitting, claiming that there was a mating ground for the sawtooth swordfish, which I know sounds completely ludicrous, but when you go to DCs and you get into these bureaucracies, that's what happens. And so for 8 years, the county commission had no idea why they were being kneecapped essentially by this sawtooth swordfish issue, until eventually they realized that this resident lived there and was using his connections to prevent the bridge from being built. So we feel that our eyes are open now, and the first bridge has been built, and that moving forward, we'll have less resistance.
Thank you.
For the record, as a young person in Manatee County, I water skied up there almost every weekend. I never saw one sawtooth swordfish, just for the record.
Thank you.
Thankfully, I did not. All right. Representative
Chair, can
Gregory.
I just make a couple of comments about
Absolutely.
this?
Absolutely.
One, the sawtooth, that's a great argument for smaller government, so thank you for sharing that with us. I just want to say, for the last 4 years, I've certainly been talking about building roads along with my colleagues here, and there's no better way to learn the needs of your community than to run for office and knock on doors and go to events like this and as many meetings as you can go to. And what you learn very quickly, or what I learned in 2018, is that roads and infrastructure is the focus. So I was so glad that we started with that focus today. Representative Robinson talking about the forward looking and planning for the future, and I'm glad to see, and of course I've known this and we know this, that Manatee County's been focused on that, and your county commissioners. So thank you, Chairman, for bringing that forward with one amendment now, and that is to include, besides roads, some parking. So I'm glad to see that addition as well. But I also just want to take a short moment to say thank you to Chairman Van Ostenbridge and the work that he did, along with all the Manatee County commissioners and so many other workers that I won't go by name. But during Hurricane Ian, and just seeing you up here reminded me of, I only spent a few hours with you and the staff out there, Chairman Van Ostenbridge, and Myaka, and you set out, sort of a forward operating base out there to hand out supplies and everything you did, and giving us tours of Dakin Dairy, and I know my colleagues did those things as well. So just a little public commendation for you. We appreciate your efforts and the efforts of all the Manatee County first responders and everyone that worked so hard during that hurricane.
Thank you, Representative Gregory, and yeah, we share that, Chairman, and with the municipalities represented here today as well. I think everybody worked so well together during the storm, and thankfully we were spared the brunt. For the most part, we had some significant damage, of course, but nothing like, in large part, like just south of us. So kudos to all of our local governments and certainly the county on a broader level for the job that was done. It was very impressive, and I think your community, our community, benefited well by it. So thank you, and thanks for the presentation. We'll definitely take those things into consideration. Next up, we have Mayor Shirley Groover Bryant from the City of Palmetto. All right, well, since Chairman Van Ostenbridge took her time as well, we have the city's information in our books, and we'll be certainly happy and willing to go through that for the record and make sure we address the needs that they've presented as well. Next up, City of Holmes Beach, Commissioner Schaefer. Commissioner? Oh, did we miss? I'm sorry, Mayor Shire. Come on. Mayor Schneier, we missed you right there. I got so excited about moving ahead. Sorry about that, sir. From Longboat Key, welcome.
Not to be forgotten.
Never.
So I'm Ken Schneier. I'm the mayor of Longboat Key, the only municipality located in both Manatee and Sarasota counties, as you know. We appreciate the opportunity to address both delegations today as you prepare for your session, and Senator Gruters will be seeing you again this afternoon, so some of this may sound familiar. So first, we would like to thank you and the legislature as a whole for the work already done in your 2 special sessions to address the tragedy at Surfside and our broken real property insurance system. And Senator Boyd, especially on the insurance issue, thank you for all your efforts on that. You've quickly taken major steps to fix major problems, efforts that should bear fruit in the not too distant future. As for our requests, first, as active, enthusiastic members of the Florida League of Cities and the Minnesota League of Cities, we strongly support the legislative agenda as presented by those 2 bodies. We especially endorse their continuing efforts to preserve the constitutional principle of home rule so that government closest to the people can decide those issues that most directly affect our local communities and neighborhoods. Controlling the proliferation of short-term rentals and hotel houses on our barrier islands comes first to mind. As for Longboat Key in particular, we're facing a number of long-term infrastructure projects that we will not be able to fund completely on our own, and infrastructure seems to be the word of the day. Some are desirable, such as our first ever Complete Streets program for all of Gulf of Mexico Drive to improve safety and connect our bike trails with the Gulf Coast Sun Trail, among other benefits. Some of these projects are essential, such as the construction of a redundant wastewater pipeline between Longboat and the Manatee mainland to ensure no recurrence to the 2021 leak that fortunately took place on land and not under the bay. And some of these projects may be existential for us, such as the re-engineering of several Longboat neighborhoods to redirect stormwater and tidal flows caused by sea level rise and increasingly severe weather. These measures will involve raising roads, improve drainage, pumping, and filtration to ensure a cleaner runoff. Taken together, these programs could cost nearly $100 million over a number of years. We hope that, with your help, some of the state and federal funds that have recently been assigned to infrastructure and the environment can help us defray a portion of these costs. Commissioner Von Ostenbridge did mention with his projects the issue of skin in the game, and I just want to assure you that some recent projects we are almost completed with. The undergrounding of all our utilities, that was completely funded by Longboat, and most of our recent renourishment of all the beaches was also funded by Longboat. And we definitely intend to participate in these other projects that are coming up, but we would like to have your help as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder, and sorry about the missing you there. How could I ever miss you? Thank you for your presentation. We look forward to working with you. Next up, back in order here, City of Holmes Beach, Commissioner Schaefer. Thank you, sir. And if you want to hit Holmes Beach, and then you're next up as well for League of Cities, if you want to just, when you finish with the with Holmes Beach, roll into that, you're welcome to do that.
I'll start with Holmes Beach, if that's...
Yes, sir, absolutely. Thank you.
Well, on behalf of our mayor and my fellow commissioners, we thank you for the opportunity to meet members of the delegation and have an opportunity firsthand to provide some insight into our legislative priorities for the upcoming year. It's a vital opportunity for us, and we appreciate your time in listening. I don't intend, because of time restraints, to go through our entire list verbatim. I know that you each have in your packets the content and explanation of each of our requests. Starting with certainly the protection of home rule, vacation rentals. The text in our presentation explains our situation. Heavy emphasis on water and air quality issues. Our city has been taking a leadership position in water quality issues over the past year in formulation of a Clean Water Committee. This committee has spent a year in studying, and the city has provided funding for water testing, inclusive of drinking water, which, in spite of the fact it is a county responsibility, is that my 3
No,
minutes
you
already?
keep going, sir.
Okay. We've undertaken testing and have results, and have made that through our meeting on Tuesday night available to the public, and we'll be sharing that with Manatee County with regard to PFAF's ongoing concern with these lifelong chemicals that are in our waters and certainly in our drinking waters, and the dangers that they occur, and some of the remedies that fortunately are available. So water quality issues, we have also passed an ordinance recently prohibiting smoking on our beach, and we have taken the liberty of an opportunity that the statutes provide, Florida statutes provide, of prohibiting the use of plastic straws and stirrers. And one of the issues that we would like for the delegation and the legislation to consider is further examination of the use of plastics, the damage that it is causing in our waters, both in Florida and in all coastal communities, and a measured approach to recommending and hopefully legislating the opportunity through home rule for communities, through home rule, to have a broader band of items, single-use plastic items that would be allowed to be considered in future prohibitions. We have passed also, in addition to our legislative priority, on Tuesday evening, a resolution concerning that, and copies of that will be sent to your staff very soon for consideration. The primary emphasis when it comes to funding that I would like to address is that of the Tourist Development Fund. Just a matter of reference, over the last 10 years, the City of Holmes Beach exclusively has been the primary provider of funding to Manatee County. In a 10-year period, Holmes Beach has contributed, through the bed tax, $30 million to the county and the TDC for allocation. In that same period of time, we've received $141,200 in funding. So from a standpoint of return on investment, we would hope that the legislation and your delegation would entertain the opportunity to review the allowable allocations and distributions of that fund. I'd like to repeat some of my comments earlier on your bill, Will, in that the incredible increase in traffic on our island is only going to be exacerbated by the new bridges. We all realize and support a new bridge, but you have to realize it still funnels down to 2 lanes. Gulf Drive is a 2-lane, very narrow corridor. So the bridge may effectuate safety in the future as far as the age and condition of those bridges. However, when it comes to assisting traffic control in our 3 cities on the island, it's not going to assist in any way, shape, or form that. So what we're hopeful, because of this increased traffic, on any given day, as I said earlier, we have coming through and into our city some 35,000 vehicles a day. Increased traffic, increased tourism is only going to exacerbate the problem, and we ask that the delegation consider the TDC allowing allocations for infrastructure improvements and replacements. In that additional traffic is having a considerable cause and effect of deteriorating our infrastructure. That is a primary funding request that we would like for you to consider. We also have included the strengthening of the mangrove trimming and enforcement regulations. This was a result of experiencing and reading of the concerns with the Aqua by the Bay project, which fortunately has been further addressed by DEP. Our request is that you review the existing statute on mangrove trimming and the enforcement, where we see the enforcement was the side of the equation that fell down. It's been reevaluated, and as you know, DEP has taken another review, examined it, determined there was damage and violation, and fines have been offered. So with that, I would be happy to answer any specific questions on our Holmes Beach submissions, and I'll move on to.
Seeing no questions, we'll move to the Minnesota League, if you will.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. The Minnesota League of Cities, as others have said in support of some of these initiatives, is represented by the cities of Anna Maria, Bradenton, Braden Beach, Holmes Beach, Longboat Key, Northport, Palmetto, Sarasota, and Venice. So a collective effort of our 9 cities representing both Manatee and Sarasota counties. And number 1 on our list, as you can see on the presentation that you have, is a protection for the benefit of all communities of home rule. Number 2 on our list, and this list was created before your special session, before the insurance reform was enacted, and on behalf of our cities, and I believe the entire state, we're very appreciative of the efforts taken. I have touched base with the League of Cities and asked whether there was any comment regarding what had been passed versus what the League of Cities had suggested for consideration. And I think by all counts, most of the most significant issues were addressed, and we're very appreciative of the efforts. The delegation, Senator Boyd, I know you were very involved in this process of getting reform completed. We also, number 3 on the Minnesota League of Cities presentation is affordable housing to support full preservation of the Sadowski Housing Trust Fund to be used solely for affordable housing programs, which I believe we all understand was its original intent. To support state appropriations for programs that support acquisition of property and construction of housing units that are affordable to low and middle income residents. Also, continued support for local government regulations of short-term rentals, to address the tourist development tax use expansion, which I referred to in my remarks from Holmes Beach, a general support from all 9 communities regarding a rethinking of allocations of the use of the bed tax for future purposes. It's one way for the cities representing these coastal communities to address the infrastructure requirements, not just solely by ad valorem taxes, but by those who are visiting our communities to help reinforce, repair, and improve for their benefit as well future visits to our communities. A strong emphasis also, as you can see, on water quality and sea level rise to support legislation that supports and provides recurring funding sources for programs and projects for water quality preservation and enhancement, and projects to mitigate the negative environmental impact of red tide and other harmful algae blooms threatening our public waterways and community health. City of Holmes Beach has provided funding through the Water Quality Committee to acquire means by which to mitigate, and if you haven't seen the effects in coastal communities of Lyngbia algae, you need to, and we're hopeful that that is another potential source, the TDC funding, to purchase the equipment for the use island-wide by the City of Holmes Beach to remove that algae, and it would also be useful for removal of fish kill and the effects of red tide in our coastal areas. And with that, I would ask if there are any questions by any of the members of the delegation.
Questions?
I'd be happy to address.
I think we're good.
further.
Thank you, Commissioner. We will definitely take these into consideration as we move forward. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yes, sir. Thanks for being here. Next up, we have the clerk of the Manatee County Circuit Court area, Clerk Angel Colanessa.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to see you all this morning, and welcome Senator Gruters and Representative Beltran. I'll be very brief this morning. Thank you so much for your support in the past years for building a structure that will allow us to attain funding and sustain funding. As you know, there are cases by good policy nature that there are no fees attached and should be that way. Public safety, most of them are related. There's also civil indigency cases as well. And I thank you, Senator Boyd, for sponsoring the bill last year that put some structure in the statutes. And we would like to move forward with sustainable funding. And I just wanted to point.
That's not you.
Okay.
I don't know where
Wow.
that's coming from.
I just wanted to point out the one slide that stood out to me was the 10-year budget increase comparison that's in your packet. And we actually, in 2021, the clerk of the court budget was, this is statewide, $37 million lower than it was in 2011. And if you look at that graph, the justice system, the increases that kept the pace with the economy, with everything and time, everybody moved up and the clerks went down 8.2%. We are actually just now coming up to where our budget was 10 years ago, which is making it increasingly difficult. I'm actually competing with people moving laterally to other local government offices, and it's resulting in a shortage, and we're having to either sacrifice coverage at the counter to cover courts. There is a shortage, but we appreciate all that you're doing and all your support. I know that you've all been helpful in this. As you know, our funding statewide is mostly off of traffic citations, and all of that we collect for everyone with our fees, we only get to retain about 50% of that. The rest goes away. So we are working on the finer points, and I'll look forward to meeting with most of you next week.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I just want to commend you on your leadership role with the Clerks Association. Aren't you the president?
I recently came off of that this summer.
So thank you for your leadership role and representing us well up there. You do a great job, obviously, locally here as our clerk, but obviously your leadership statewide is very important, so thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Gregory.
Yeah, and sometimes it's good to share things that are said in private, and so I'll share with you, Clerk, that when you're not around, we talk about you a lot, and it's always positive.
Good. Good. Thank you.
Not to act like I'm piling on, but having worked with you and your team on some of the legislation that you mentioned, I too share their comments. Great leadership on your part, not just in our community, which I think you're doing phenomenal, but across the state as well. And to have gained that position so early on in your tenure as our clerk speaks volumes itself. So thanks for your leadership. Thanks for what you do. I know y'all have had some pretty serious constraints, y'all being the clerks across the state, with respect to funding and monies that come in, and we're always looking for ways to help you fund your operation, but become more efficient as well, which I think you're doing. So anything we can do to help and I can do to help, please let us know. But thank you for your leadership and for what you've done for the state, actually the whole association and the whole volume of clerks across the state.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Welcome, Representative Rector. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Next up, Manatee County School District Chairman Chad Choate. Welcome, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman and Senator Gruters and representatives. That's going to be a tough act to follow. A lot of accolades to the clerk, which she is fantastic. Thank you guys for allowing us to come today to talk about our legislative priorities. And I also want to thank you in years past, especially last year, with the governor really putting education in the front fold and parental rights in education. I want to thank you for that support. As a parent in the district, I think it's crucial that parents are involved in the education of their children. So I want to thank you all for that support that you had for the governor. Really, we just want to continue that support that you all have for education. And really, we ask that the first ask that we have for legislation priority is just to keep or maybe even increase the base student allocation. Obviously, with the cost of living and inflation, we want to make sure we stay the standards that Manatee County has set. Last year, we were 25th in the state, our highest ranking in the time that rankings have been done in the county. So we're excited to see what the future brings, and hopefully we continue to move in that right direction as we look into to finding another superintendent. We're in that search right now, which is an exciting time, and we look forward to that. one of the things that I think that has been on the docket, and at least on some of the other sessions in years past, is including pre-K into the K through 12 system. And I think that some of the data that we bring, the reason why we asked to look into bringing that pre-K funding into the K through 12 space is the numbers that come back. If we can get children reading as early as possible, we believe by that third grade time they're gonna read better. And our numbers have shown that when you're in our school system, based on an outside private, pre-K, that they can work with what we need for the standards that are there for the education. So we look for pre-K funding, as well as possibly looking into funding more for teacher aides inside the K through 3 space to help with the reading gaps. Obviously, in our population here in Manatee County, we have a lot of non-English speaking students, so teacher aides can be crucial to helping catching those students up. Also want to thank you for last year's your support in our MTC. It was not only MTC but UCF and also the Sarasota Airport with the airplane maintenance program. That's going to be something exciting that we bring here to the counties, both counties, and we really feel like it's a workforce readiness program that's going to be really, really beneficial to Manatee County. Lastly, and this request is pretty special. It's only kind in the state and I believe in the country. But we recently opened up in concert with Guy Harvey's Foundation, the first academy of its kind in Anna Maria Island Elementary School. And if you haven't gone out there, please get a time to go out there and check out the facility. It's an absolute great program that we believe is going to encourage at the youngest levels, in starting in kindergarten at Anna Maria, to really be able to get into our waters and look at conservation, marine life. And it's going to be based on science, art, math, curriculum, and Dr. Harvey has done a fantastic job out there with it. And so we asked for $2 million just to make that system, make that robust throughout. We can move that through middle school and high school programs, get some outdoor considerations too for that. And we look forward to that growth with that Guy Harvey Academy. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? Thanks for your leadership as well, Chairman. Yes, sir. Next up, we have Manatee County Sheriff's Office Detective April Colbreth and retired Master Detective Greg Pollock from Hillsborough County. Welcome.
Hey, good morning. First of all, I want to thank all of you gentlemen for your service. Manatee County couldn't be stronger right now with you guys and our Board of Commission and our school board, so thank you for that. I am April Allison Colbreth. My real job is in law enforcement. I've been with the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. I'm the senior detective. I've been there 26 years, and about the last 6 years I've been working with the pawn shops and secondhand dealers. It's my responsibility to oversee those throughout the county. The Florida statute 538 and 539, they're outdated. They're very poorly worded. And we're past the point of being at great risk for victims of crimes whose property has been pawned for losing that property. I've talked to some people at FDLE. The problem is, and I gave you, this is not going to be able to get, I'm not going to be able to get this out in 3 minutes, but if you read through the packet that I presented, we have vendors that are doing the reporting for stuff that is taken into pawn shops. There's 2 vendors now in the state of Florida, and they're fighting with one another to get a monopoly, and they're raising the prices. The sheriff's office was paying $6,500 a year, and they've raised it to $100,000 a year out of the blue. So the problem is that, beyond that problem, is that there's 67 counties in the state of Florida, and they're using separate systems. And now these systems are trying to get a monopoly, and they're not sharing the information. So in short, if something was stolen here in Manatee County and then pawned up in Hillsborough County, I'm not going to be able to find it because the systems aren't communicating. So that's my main portion of the statute that really has to be addressed, because we are in a crisis situation now. Property's already getting lost. So someone whose grandmother may have had an heirloom ring stolen, it's gone. retired detective Greg Pollock. He can go over some of the other things in the statute if we do get it opened up. I've talked to FDLE who used to run the system, and then they allowed private companies to come in and get involved with it. But my main thing is I think it would probably be most appropriate if our new representative, Mike Beltran, headed it up and did some work and got everybody's support.
Second that motion.
Because of the fact that some of you guys sit, chair committees that might be in conflict. But there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on it. But FDLE agrees that we are in crisis situation, but they would require a bill to be presented in order to get, that system started.
I don't want to let your colleague speak as well, but I believe my chief aide, Kathy Gailey, has talked with you or some of your colleagues a little bit, and we'd be happy to, if that's something you're interested in, Representative, we'd be happy to share that information with you as well, but I'm not putting you on the spot, but we'll talk about that as well. But thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm Greg Pollock. I'm a retired detective from Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. I've been working with pawn shops since going back to 2001 till I retired. The main thing we've had, the issues is we need a statewide database where law enforcement shares the information from the pawn transactions because, as you know, crime has no border. We've dealt numerous times throughout the years. I've recovered property as far away as Alachua County from Hillsborough, Manatee. We've worked cases and cases and cases where property switches back and forth. That addresses the first part of the problem. Second part is the victim getting their property back is a rural pain in the way the statute's written. I've streamlined it to Mayor 538, which is a lot easier. You go to the courthouse, you fill out the form, you serve a shop with it, and then usually get the property back. That's one of the main things because the victims always don't. Most of the shops try to railroad them into buying their property back for what they paid for it, and that's, you're a victim. You don't need to victimize these people twice. So that's a couple of the main points on it. All of those statutes is where you take digital photos of the property. 538 has it. It was done in there when I assisted with the statute a few years ago. Digital photos of the property being pawned, plus the item description, plus a photograph of the person who is pawning the items. Because you know how it is, identity theft, they use other IDs, and then a digital thumbprint from the person there. That's the main point, and then and the return of the property, and that's the main things. There's some other minor technical stuff about how to submit it and all that to the law enforcement agencies, but in a nutshell, if we have those things, it'll make it a lot easier we can recover the victim's stolen property.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all very much, and we'll definitely take it under consideration and appreciate very much you bring it to us, but more importantly, appreciate your service to our community and protecting us, so thank you for that. They deserve an applause. State College of Florida, Dr. Carol Probstfeld. Good morning, Doctor. Welcome.
Good morning, Chairman, Senator Boyd, and all delegation members. Thank you for giving me this opportunity today to talk to you about my favorite topic, the State College of Florida, Manatee, Sarasota. We've had the chance to meet with several of you already, and I know you have our requests for this session before you, so I won't go into detail describing them. I just want to share with you that each of the priorities that we're asking you to support us with allow SCF to create greater access to higher education throughout our region. Access to campus-based courses, workforce programs, and support services in parish as our population center is moving east, and increase access through comparable funding with the Florida College System institutions so we can fund high-demand programs and occupations in the health services area, information technology, education degrees, and certificates. With your assistance, I want to say thank you. We have been able to expand our nursing program, doubling the number of nurses we can accept this coming fall into our program. But to sustain that increase, we need your help with securing recurring funding. With your support, we also were able to break ground for the first time in 30 years for a new building on our Venice campus, our Science and Technology building. The campus is recovering well from being 3 feet underwater after Ian, and having a new building under construction really means a lot to the morale of that campus as they recover. We're also expanding experiential learning opportunities for everyone in the community through our libraries and STEM programs that you've also funded and helped to support us throughout the years. We're in our 65th year, and our legacy of excellence continues to deliver innovative programs, student support services that cater to the local workforce and the region we serve. SCF, if you look at the number of student graduates or outputs we create versus the appropriation we receive, is one of the most productive colleges in the Florida college system. We're very proud of that, and thank you for making that possible. Our coding academies, spring and summer camps, dual enrollment, associate baccalaureate degrees, certificates, licenses, continuing learning, fine and performing arts, athletics, and our entrepreneurism center help those young and young at heart to achieve their potential. Together, we know we can continue to expand access to serve the workforce in Manatee and Sarasota counties, and I look forward to working with you throughout this next session. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? We appreciate it very much. We'll look forward to working with you as well. Thanks for being here. Next up, Dr. Karen Holbrook from University of South Florida. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you very much. We sound like very much the same story. So good morning, Senator Boyd and members of the Manatee County Legislative Delegation. On behalf of the University of South Florida Board of Trustees and President Rhea Law, I want to thank you for your continued support of our institution, and I want to share with you a few of the highlights of what is ahead for us at the University of South Florida Sarasota Manatee campus. Thanks to the leadership of Senator Boyd and Representative Robinson, state funding has made it possible for us to develop a plan for our nursing STEM building. This new 75,000 square foot academic building will allow us to teach students in state-of-the-art laboratories to fulfill workforce needs in high-demand jobs for our region, jobs such as nursing, other health sciences, and engineering that will be an important asset to our community. In addition to the critical state appropriations you have obtained, just last month, Congressman Vern Buchanan secured an additional $2 million in federal support toward the design of this building. We are also focused on raising philanthropic funds in our community, beginning with dedication of funds from our brunch in the Bay, which this year brought in more funds than we have ever in the past. But a second building is also being developed on our campus, a new 100,000 square foot student center and residence hall, which will completely change the makeup and the opportunities for our students. With the support of President Law, the approvals of the U.S. Board of Trustees, USF Board of Trustees, and the Board of Governors, this joint use building will open in the fall of 2024. This is also new construction, but it's funded by USF itself using appropriate university funding, student fees, and state-approved bonding. In addition to the physical expansion, our campus is also going to increase access for our regional students and beyond to all of the academic programs of the consolidated USF, a top-ranked, preeminent university. The programs on our campus specifically, however, are focused on sectors that we think are relevant to our community. These are our clusters, our strengths, our partnerships with the community, and they correspond to major employment needs for our area. The Business Hub, for example, includes a School of Risk Management in Insurance, Cybersecurity, and Information Systems Management, and the School of Hospitality, Tourism Management, and others. Our Health Hub includes the Accelerated Nursing Program, which has now graduated its first class of BSN-trained nurses, enrolled a second class, and will double, like State College, and will double the size of its nursing program next year, and add other health-related programs with our College of Health Sciences at USF, including pharmacy, public health, and medicine. A third cluster emphasizes programs in social and behavioral sciences. We continually work to grow our programs of higher education that benefit this community and the future success of the region and the state of Florida. So thank you very much for your time and for your continued support.
Thank you. Question? Yeah, Representative Gregory.
Chair, just another comment, another moment of public praise. I hope that, if there's any stories written today about the meeting, it won't be on, some obscure hot button issue that we battle about, but focus on, for example, the leadership of these two doctors and what they're doing at USF and SCF, and the opportunities for the parents in the room, and hopefully the parents that would read a story that I would like to see written about the opportunities that they provide for your children, starting at the 6th grade of the State College of Florida. I mean, people don't realize that many times, that they have a school there that your children in grades 6 through 12 could attend, and when you graduate, you have your AA at the same day you get your high school diploma, and then you have a 2-year head start. And I speak from personal experience, since 2 of my boys took advantage of that program, and I think everybody here either had an attendance in part at SCF or USF or had a family member that did that, and the advantage that that brings for the community, for the children of the residents of Manatee County to go to one of those schools and then be part of this long-term vision that we're talking about and contribute to the economic development here. So I know that we're happy to support both of you, and I really would like to see some good news stories about this delegation and the great opportunities, the great things that are happening right here at home.
Well said, my friend. Anybody else? Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Next up, we have Peace River, Minnesota Regional Water Supply. Mike Coates, the Executive Director. Welcome, Mr. Coates.
Thank you very much for the opportunity today. Chairman Boyd, delegation members, on behalf of the Peace Minnesota Regional Water Supply Authority and our member governments, which include Manatee, DeSoto, Charlotte, and Sarasota, I want to thank you for your continued support in the development of a resilient drinking water supply for our region. With state and SwiftMud assistance, our partnership over the years has provided a regional supply system that is a model for success in Florida. Our facilities operate 24/7, 365. Last year, the authority delivered 10.5 billion gallons of water to our customers in this region through 80 miles of regional transmission pipelines. Through Hurricane Ian, these regional supplies operated without fail. They propped up the rest of the drinking water system in our region. And I want to tell you, I was out at the plant during Hurricane Ian. We sat in the eye wall for 6 hours. I had no idea wind could blow that hard or rain could fall that fast. But the facilities continued to produce water. Communities may have lost power, but if they were connected to the regional system, they didn't lose water service. To meet the fast-growing needs of our region, the regional water supply capacity and pipeline transmission capacity needs to be expanded. We're working right now on the engineering studies for a new 9 billion gallon reservoir at our water treatment facility that will provide water for the region for the next 20 years. We also have 2 new regional pipeline projects that will begin construction this year. Those pipelines will extend the regional water supply system by 22 miles in Charlotte and Sarasota counties, meeting growing water needs and improving our water system reliability to help us face future Hurricane Ians. These pipeline extensions also set up a critical regional connection in the future with the Manatee water system that ties in the 2 largest water supply systems in the region, our system and Manatee County's system. State funding has always been vital for our regional water supply projects, and that state funding is now taking on increased importance because funding from SwiftMud has diminished due to high demand for SwiftMud project dollars, coupled with 11 consecutive years of rollbacks in SwiftMud's millage rate. And that has reduced the reserves that the Water Management District needs to fund both local and regional water supply projects. And those local projects include anything from stormwater to septic to sewer. They simply don't have the money to fund those anymore. We would appreciate your support on these 3 projects, the 2 pipeline projects and the reservoir project. Information is in your binder. Also, our contact information is in your binder. I'd invite any and all of you to come out to our facilities. And if you have any questions, I'd answer those. But thanks again for your time and your support.
Thanks, Mr. Coates. Questions? Appreciate you being here today.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Next up, we have Ms. Brittany Lamont from Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance. We had Ms. Brittany Lamont, but her material and Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance material, I believe, is in the binder, so feel free to look at that. And any questions, you can reach out to her directly. And now we have Dr. Michael Crosby from Moat Marine. Welcome, Dr. Crosby.
Thank you, sir, and Chairman, Senator, Representatives, good morning. Happy New Year to you all. I was honored a couple days ago to be asked by the governor to stand with him at a press conference where he went over some of the great environmental accomplishments that the state of Florida has achieved over the last 4 years, and talk about some of the plans for the next 4 years to address some of these challenges. And I was humbled that the governor called out specifically several moat-led major initiatives and partnerships that were part of that. But I also acknowledge that it's the legislature that appropriates the funds to make sure that we're able to do those things. And so I want to tell you all how much I appreciate your strong support for these initiatives, many of them groundbreaking, first of their kind, paradigm changing, that without your strong support, we never would have been able to achieve that. And so our legislative priorities today, I hope we can count on your strong support again. These all involve translating and transferring science and technology to address many of the grand challenges facing our coastal and marine resources that directly impact our quality of life and our economic development in this area. The first of which is red tide. And again, you all really were supportive of a game-changing initiative, the Red Tide Mitigation Technology Development Initiative, a 6-year initiative. We're in the 4th year of that. Right now, we've already conducted 30 different projects. We've been bringing in partners, over 20 different partners from throughout the state of Florida and around the world that we provide funds to, that you have appropriated for us to use for this method. We have looked at over 200 different technologies and methods. We've developed over a dozen that show clear promise for being able to mitigate the impacts of red tide, and we're beginning to scale those up and engineer for the next 2 years with your support to get those out in the field. Also, the Red Tide partnership with FWC, very, very important. These are all recurring funds, so we're just asking for your continued support for that. Coral reef restoration is another, where you all have been very supportive over the last several years. Moat's a leader in the world, actually, in developing the technologies. We've already outplanted more than 175,000 of these coral, 90% success rate in them surviving what is killing corals throughout the Florida Keys and around the world, so we hope for your continued support there. I will tell you that we've got a new initiative that we're going to be working with you all on that's going to require some legislation to establish a seagrass restoration technology initiative. This is built on the same approach that we've used for the Red Tide Mitigation Technology Initiative, a 5-year initiative, but it's also using the experience of our coral restoration program, where we focus on identifying resilient genotypes of seagrasses and use those then to restore. We've got a significant decline in seagrasses all around the state. And finally, we'll ask for your support for our K-12 STEM education and undergraduate research STEM workforce development labs that are going in the new Moat Science Education Aquarium. Thank you all very much.
Any questions? I'm reluctant to even ask this because I hope I'm right. Red tide, yes, we talked about. It seems like this year was a pretty good year and not as dramatic as we've had in the past. Is that assessment correct? And is that a result of some of certainly what you all are doing, but what we've been able to find funding for? And I'm not trying to pat the legislature on the back. I'm just trying to get a handle on, where you see it as the expert scientist right now in our communities.
Your assessment is correct in that we dodged a bit of a bullet this time. We had been watching a significant set of variables offshore, about 30 miles offshore, since last summer that all said we could be having a major red tide if the loop current came in. It did not come in. Unfortunately, Ian's winds sort of blew the surface waters out, caused an upwelling, pulled it in instead of the loop current. We got a little little taste of it. It was nasty in a couple of areas for a relatively short amount of time. And we were able to use that as an opportunity. I hate to say it, but our field work is dependent on a natural red tide to demonstrate that we can do something with that. We've demonstrated all we can do in the testing facilities. We know we have the technologies, but now we got to scale it up for widespread use throughout Tampa Bay, Sarasota Bay, and offshore as well. So we're there. We're very, very close to this, and now it's all about scalability, which we'll be focused on in the 5th and 6th year.
Thank you. We've said it before, and I'll say it again. I mean, we are so blessed to have the preeminent world-class Marine Science Institute right here in our community, and your leadership and your team is just so impressive. So thanks for what you're doing. I know we'll work very hard together to continue that momentum that you have built and that's going forward. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we're a local homegrown institution, and we wouldn't exist without the support of this community here. And they should feel a righteous sense of ownership for what they've helped to build. So
Well, we're glad you're here. Thank you very much. Next up, Meals on Wheels, Mr. M.W. Goodson.
And Ms. Jackie Barron.
And Ms. Sorry.
Our current chairman of the board. Thank you for the opportunity and allowing us to represent Meals on Wheels Plus in our application for a non-recurring matching grant funds. The pandemic took our infrastructure to the brink of collapse as we became responsible for 56,000 meals a week for that 2-year period. Coming out of the pandemic, of course, we had the Ian catastrophe for Mayaca, and literally overnight we had to come up with 140,000 pounds of food to help our neighbors to the east. Tying both those events with the population explosion in Manatee County over the last decade has shown a disturbing light on our present food bank, which is now 40 years old. It's only 8,500 square foot. It's shown that we must meet the needs of the Manatee County people. We need to expand that facility and rejuvenate it. Our board of directors 2 years ago saw this challenge, purchased the property adjacent to the food bank so we could have the property for this expansion. They also allocated $150,000 for start the process of construction. We are not asking for any of that money. That is our investment in our future. We are asking that the $1.2 million that's going to take to build the facility, that you would consider supporting us by half of that. We already have the $600,000 of our side. Money's already raised, or the donors have obligated themselves to raising those funds for us. So we have got our portion, but we really need to get this done the next 12 to 18 months. If we have to go through campaigns to raise the next $600,000, it's going to take us 3 to 4 years to accomplish those goals, and we don't really want to do that. So we're asking that the state of Florida might help us in meeting this obligation that we feel that we have to the people of Manatee County, to be there for them in times of need. So that wraps up my presentation. I hope you will consider our request for $600,000 in non-recurring and matching funds.
Thank you, Representative Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mark and Jackie. Just thank you for your leadership. This is one of the most critical nonprofits we have in our area. I just recently went on a home-delivered meal route, and the need is great. Very great in our community, and dire in some circumstances. And you all are volunteers stepping up to lead a great organization, so thank you, and certainly whatever we can do, we're going to help you out. So thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Yes, I would just also encourage the rest of the delegation, anytime you'd like to volunteer on a route, it is a wonderful experience. So I encourage you to take part in that. This organization is truly tip of the spear, be it a pandemic or moments following a natural disaster. And so we appreciate your support.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you all very much. Next up, Growing Oaks Initiative, Christina Gherkin. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity with the delegation, senators and representatives, for the opportunity today. I'm Christina Gherkin. I'm the CEO of Align Consulting, and I'm a facilitator for Growing Oaks Initiative, which is providing opportunities, advocacy, and keys for success for foster care youth in our area. We have a great team of leaders that are a part of this initiative, and they all are volunteers. Mayor Jean Brown, the Honorable Judge Moss. We have also the Florida Department of Health Child Welfare Policy Coordinator Nathan Scott, Captain Rick Gherkin of the Manatee Sheriff's Office, Cindy Spray with the Manatee School District School Board. We also have Youth with a Voice members that come to our table because it's important to hear directly from the foster youth. And then organizations that are in this space, Project Heart, Harbor 58, The Twig, and The Forge. And so thank you for this. One of the things that we're doing is we're meeting and identifying gaps within the system and how we can help provide support to that. You'll see in this page that was sent to you that one of the gaps is we identified there are families in crisis that are on a wait list. So Manatee County does an excellent job of providing CAT teams, which are Children Community Action Treatment Teams, to families and youth in our area. And so thank you, delegation, for providing that consistent support and state funding for those teams. It's integral to the infrastructure of families. But as we were going through that, we discovered the gaps are the families that are in the wait list. And so what we are asking for today is for family navigators, 5 family navigators. This is a short-term solution as we work together as a team for the long-term solution. So currently we're doing an environmental scan to just make sure we have identified the gaps. And so the family navigators would provide diversion to families on the wait list. They would provide for families that complete services through the CAT teams, because right now there's no follow-up or follow-through, and then provide diversion and support for the families that don't meet the needs or the criteria for the CAT teams. So as you can see, Manatee County currently serves over 65 families per month. And so those 5 family navigators would help provide the gap of the over 40 families and growing that are on the wait list. And so we thank you for this opportunity and consideration for the funds for these family navigators.
Thanks, Ms. Gherkin. Questions? Thank you very much.
If I could have a minute.
Sure, absolutely.
Sure, okay. Christina and I have been working on this Growing Oaks initiative for over almost a year now. And as you can see, with the county, with Chair Van Ostenbridge asking about foster care funding, and then also us working in the foster care community, and then even with the schools, there are needs for the foster care initiatives in the whole county. And I just wanted to add to you and say thank you for your consideration for helping us through this, because to me, it starts with K through 3, and that's one of the asks we have on the school board, getting kid support in kindergarten. This is also one of those things. So I appreciate all the consideration you give us for this, and appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Next up, we have Ms. Pat Ahrens from Freedom Village, the chapter of Florida Life Care Residents Association. Welcome, Ms. Ahrens. Good to see you again.
Right. Good morning, Chairman Boyd and members of the delegation. I am Pat Ahrens. I'm a resident for over 13 years at Freedom Village Continuing Care Retirement Community. That's a CCRC, and that's in Bradenton. As a CCRC, that means we have all 3 levels of care there provided through residency and independent living, assisted living, and skilled nursing. I've been a Manatee County resident for 46 years. My late husband and I lived on Longboat Key for 32 years before coming to Freedom Village. And my work career was with 3 academic institutions of higher learning, as well as with city, county, state, and federal governments. During that time, I certainly did become keenly aware of the value of advocacy with our elected officials. To name a few, I have served as the president of Florida Association of City Clerks and co-chaired the International Committee of the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. And in Manatee County, I served with the Manatee League of Women Voters as chair of voter services, served for 10 years on the advisory board of the Institute of Government International, and I was also with the advisory board of the Institute of Government at Manatee Community College, which is now State College of Florida, and I advanced to president of that board of the Institute of Government. Now at Freedom Village, I continue to advocate for residents of continuing care retirement communities, that's CCRCs. I've been president for 12 years of the Freedom Village chapter with 400 members. I served on the state FLACRA board as vice president 2 years, 6 years as president, and now 6 years as immediate past president. There are over 13,000 members of FLACRA in the state of Florida in 56 chapters. So we are not asking for any funding. Our dues and expenses for any advocacy is covered by those dues from those 13,000 members. Residents living in CCRC communities make a substantial investment through our significant interest fees. We pay for our potential health care, and we pay monthly services as well. We have a lifetime contract. We are guaranteed living space suitable for our needs for the rest of our lives. FLACRA was formed by CCRC residents over 30 years ago, and it led to regulation of our communities through enactment of Chapter 651 of the Florida statutes. And that's titled Continuing Care Contracts. That's implemented and enforced through the state's Office of Insurance Regulation. That's the OIR. The mission of FLACRA to promote and protect the rights of residents of CCRCs has been accomplished through our relationship with legislators and state regulating agencies. FLACRA is known and respected in the Capitol as the voice of CCRC residents through our successful efforts in continuing to update Florida law. I believe it's relevant to share the high inflation rates that have and will continue to impact residents of CCRCs. For much of the last 20 years, the average statewide increase in monthly CCRC housing fees has been 3 to 3.5%. For the calendar year 2023, many CCRC residents have been informed monthly fees have been increased between 7 to 12%. So as part of our advocacy, I will notify you when a bill that we are sponsoring along with the Leading Age, which is the Association of Owners and Operators of CCRCs. And while no bill number has been assigned at this time, I'll notify you when that occurs along with the sponsor names. The FLACRA board has also identified 30 proposed bills so far. They will be tracked throughout the legislative process as bills of possible impact on CCRC residents and seniors. So as your legislative committee meetings progress, I will be requesting your support of FLACRA's position of either support or opposition on specific proposed bills. I do want to let you know that our residents are proud to be active, responsible, knowledgeable voters. Our Freedom Village polling precinct has shown to be constantly the highest in tops in Manatee County voting turnout. We are of the greatest generation and the silent generation. We share the main values of security and stability. We are savers and planners, and we look to our elected officials to acknowledge these values in adopting legislation that serves our best interests. I thank you for your service and will appreciate as you deliberate on proposed legislation in the health care and long-term care arena, you will keep in mind the unique needs of senior residents of continuing care retirement communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ahrens. Appreciate you being here. Next up, we have Michelle Hall with the Alzheimer's Association. You're here with Mr. Doug Hall. Please come up.
When I last was before When I was last before a delegation, I had
Doug, can you just pull the mic up just a little bit? Just, we're trying to get you so we can record it. There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Distinguished members of the Manatee Legislative Delegation, I appreciate the opportunity to address you today. My name is Michelle Hall. I'm from Bradenton, and I'm living with Alzheimer's disease. I'm here today with my mother, my daughter, and my husband. The state of Florida has the second highest population of people living with Alzheimer's disease in our country. Over 600,000 Floridians are living with the disease, including over 14,000 here in Manatee County. Of the top 10 leading causes of death in the nation, Alzheimer's disease remains the only disease without prevention, viable treatments, or a cure. I know many of you have been touched by the realities of Alzheimer's and dementia, and you realize all too well that there are no good outcomes with this disease yet. To that end, the Alzheimer's Association will continue to advocate for resources for individuals and families impacted by the disease. With your support, we remain determined and optimistic as we propose our 2023 legislative priorities. First, we seek to establish baseline dementia training standards for staff in all long-term care settings. Direct care workers are the single most important factor in determining quality dementia care. These providers help shape the daily lives of the individuals with dementia by assisting in all aspects of their physical care. We will work in partnership with the long-term care community, knowing that additional training helps facilities with staff retention, morale, family satisfaction, and confidence. Second, we know we must do better in educating our community about the early warning signs of Alzheimer's and the importance of brain health. A significant amount of people are not discussing their cognitive health with their healthcare providers. That is why we are advocating for legislation that will require the Department of Health to create the first ever statewide public health awareness campaign that utilizes multiple different media platforms and focuses on underserved communities. On behalf of the Alzheimer's Association and the over 500,000 Floridians living with this disease, as well as their families and caretakers, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity here today. We look forward to seeing each of you in Tallahassee on February 7th and 8th for our annual Advocacy Days. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle and Doug, thank you. I've known you all a long time, and thank you, Michelle, for your courage. That's very important.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And thank you, Michelle and Doug, for your courage and your advocacy. And I think it's no coincidence you're wearing purple. today, which is the color of Alzheimer's, and you are too, Doug. We fight about a lot of issues in the legislature, and Republicans are red and Democrats are blue, but those two together are purple, and there's one issue that brings us together. It's this issue. But continued advocacy like you're doing right now is just so incredibly important, and thank you for your courage.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Jackie Giselsky from Manatee Chamber of Commerce. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and honorable delegation. It's an honor to address you this morning, both as a way to say thank you for your leadership and your support, the support of your teams with whom we all in the community work so closely, as well to address issues that come up, and also to share with you a short list of a very long platform of priorities that we know we'll share more with you when our team is in Tallahassee to visit with you personally in just a few weeks. So on behalf of the Manatee Chamber of Commerce, our 2,000 plus business members and their 70,000 employees, I want to thank you for your incredible personal response to the challenges that Hurricane Ian brought to our community. You were in lockstep with our local officials, other state officials, and our federal resources. As we all know, much of Manatee County was spared the very worst, but we also know that there was significant long-term impacts to a number of families and businesses as well. And so please, on behalf of the entire business community, accept our thanks for all that you did to ensure that we were all working together. We thank you for a number of the issues that have already been brought forward by other community partners on work that was done in the 2022 session related to higher education, related to longer-term funding for Visit Florida, which has been a priority of our chamber for a number of years. Also, your continued personal attention with ensuring that we see Piney Point to the finish line as well. We all know we hold our breath during the rainy seasons and during hurricane seasons, so thank you all for your personal attention and support of our local officials. Senator Boyd as well, the heavy lift on property insurance. As we know, we made significant progress in the state thanks to your leadership, but we also know that this is one of those continuing issues, particularly on the commercial side as we look for stability and cost reduction for businesses, as well as we move forward with additional opportunities to address property insurance. Many of you are familiar with the committee structure at the Manatee Chamber, with hundreds of business people gathering input from their colleagues across our region and working on a number of issues. Our legislative committee kind of coalesces all of that input together and prepares our platform. We'll echo some of the infrastructure needs that you've heard from us in the past, but have also been reiterated by many of our government agencies related to bridges and related to capacity, both north-south and east-west across Manatee County and our greater region. Workforce development and also support for our workforce with the availability, or at this time lack of availability, of affordable workforce housing will remain a priority of our chamber as well. Taxation, knowing that we all strive for the continued reduction and eventual elimination of our commercial lease tax, our business rent tax, so to say, as well as keeping an eye on reductions to the communication services tax and possibilities within the corporate income tax arena as well. Finally, continued support for Visit Florida and Enterprise Florida are other planks that you will find within our full platform. We look forward to visiting with you and your teams, as I said, the second week in February when we personally visit Tallahassee to have more time with you. And then the invitation has already been extended to you all through your offices for the Chamber's annual Pancakes and Politics that will come up at the end of February for you to address our entire membership. We look forward to welcoming you there and having great dialogue. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Any questions? Good. Thanks a lot. See you in Tallahassee, if not before. Next up, J&M Support Coordination Services, Melissa Mazeda. Hope I pronounced that correctly.
I'm here to advocate on behalf of the iBudget waiver, which is under the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. And I believe, Senator Gruters, that you're sitting on the Appropriations Committee this year for Health and Human Services. And the iBudget waiver is serves specifically people with developmental disabilities. And currently, there's a little over 35,000 people that are on that waiver. There's another 22,000 plus that are waiting on the wait list to get on that waiver. So there's about 57,676 clients that are between the people on the waiver and on the wait list. And right now, the critical need that we're facing is for support coordination. That is the one service on this program that you have to have. It's mandatory. And the rate for support coordination is from 1994. Senate Bill 82 was signed into law in July of 2021, or effective July 2021. And it was a game changer for this particular field. And we don't have enough support coordinators at this point to meet the need. And the folks that are on this program rely heavily on that particular service. I've been a support coordinator since the waiver started, so since 1993. So it's been 29 years at this point that I've been doing this, and I own an agency actually right next door to your office. And we employ a number of support coordinators. We're in many counties throughout the state, and one of the things with this job in particular is that it requires longevity. It takes years to learn it, and the people that rely upon us are very vulnerable. They're people with intellectual disabilities, cerebral palsy, spina bifida, autism, and our agency serves age ranges from 5 through 92, so it encompasses a number of people. And right now there's about 5.5 million Medicaid recipients, and our portion is quite small of that, but it hasn't received enough attention. And there's been, since 1993, since the inception of the program, there's been a 92% cost of living increase. APD had commissioned a study that was done in 2003, so 20 years ago, recommending a higher rate than what it's even at now. APD decided that wasn't something that they wanted to go with. So they continued to still support this very low rate, which it's not possible to continue to grow and expand and meet the need. And with the wait list, what it is, if there isn't enough support coordinators for people to come off of that wait list, or I should say, people won't be able to come off of the wait list if there aren't enough support coordinators. So I ask that you please try to help shore up this really important program for the people that it's supposed to be serving. And I will tell you that there is a better way to manage the budgets that are on that program. I have shared that with Representative Gregory before, but I would like to be able to also share that with you as well.
Great.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Mazzetta. Any questions? Thank you for being here. We're going to jump back, members, to tab 13. Ms. Brittany Lamont from Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance is here. I think it was our mistake, or I'll take my mistake, we told her originally, I think a little earlier in the agenda, or later in the agenda, so apologize for that, but glad you're here, and please feel free to tell us what's on your mind.
Yes, no, absolutely, and thank you, and I apologize as well.
No worries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and other members of the delegation. My name is Brittany Lamont, President and CEO of the Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance. This is Ron Beck with Gulfside Bank, and he is our Government Affairs Committee Chairman. So we represent over 600 businesses in the Lakewood Ranch region, and what you have in front of you is our 2023 legislative agenda that was recently approved by our board of directors. So 4 items I wanted to just bring to your attention that we're monitoring: affordable housing, continued expansion of infrastructure in the Lakewood Ranch region, workforce development, and stability in the insurance industry, which, Ron, if you want to expand on.
I just had one additional comment in that regard. And I want a word of thanks to Senator Boyd for your efforts in leading the charge, if you will, on the legislation regarding insurance and providing stability and capacity in the insurance market, and that goes for all the delegates who are here. I think that's something that our membership truly appreciates, your support for that. I think it's going to be beneficial. Maybe the work's not done yet, but we've got the right people in place, I think, to continue those efforts. So thank you for that. And on a personal note, I want to thank all of you for allowing us to be here today. Appreciate all the work you're doing, and we do look forward to seeing you early February in Tallahassee. So thank you very much, and sorry for the confusion about
No, it's
the
our
timing
fault,
on this
our
thing.
fault.
So
No worries.
thanks. Keep up the good work.
Thanks for being here. And just let me quickly say, and thank you for your comments. Several others have made comments about the property insurance. That's something that affects every Floridian, and it got out of control, and we just had to rein it in. But I didn't do it myself. My colleagues here had great input and great impact on that, and I was able to carry the ball, but I couldn't have done it without my delegation and the team around us. But thank you for those comments. We appreciate it. Okay.
Chairman, I'll just chime in real quick. Yes, we all helped, but you were definitely the lead on the property insurance. You are absolutely the shining star in Tallahassee when it comes to property insurance reform, and some of the stuff that you've implemented over the last 12 months is really going to help everybody. So you are to be commended, and I know all homeowners across the state are going to be very appreciative of your actions once these rates stabilize.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Tab 17, back to tab 17, Manatee, Sarasota Building Industry Association, Mr. David Ballard. Welcome, Mr. Ballard.
Well, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. The first thing I'd like to do is to thank your staff. Without them, none of this happens. So thank you very much. The second thing I would like to do is also thank you all for your continued service. So us with the Building Industry Association, we have 7 priorities that we're looking at this year, and with varying different degrees of focus, but the thing that we are going to be most focused on is construction defect litigation, the right to repair. As it currently stands, you can onboard onto a lawsuit if there is a technical defect that does not meet the Florida Building Code. You're talking a light switch that's 1/4 of an inch off. They allow attorneys to then sue, and it becomes a long out, drawn out issue. Instead of that, what we would like to do is to provide a definition of what constitutes a material defect to allow the owner to be made whole without going through the court system. The next has to do with how impact fees are used and when they may be raised. Currently, there is a definition within statute of a law that you all passed last year that impact fees may go above and beyond a statutory requirement if there are extraordinary circumstances. However, there is no definition of what constitutes an extraordinary circumstance. So you could have anything from anticipated and expected growth occurring to the proliferation and use of single-use plastics, and those could constitute extraordinary circumstances in the eye of a local jurisdiction. The next issue, and I'm sure that those of you who also sit on the Sarasota delegation that you'll hear more about, is contraction or de-annexation. So in South Sarasota County right now, there's an issue in Northport in which an area was annexed within the boundary of Northport. Now there's some discussion about that they would like to de-annex, but there are certain rights and obligations that have already been granted to the landholders. What we are advocating for is to make the same standard to annex as it is to de-annex a portion of land, the same vote from the same landholders. Moving on, the preemption of local occupational licensing. 2 years ago, you all worked on a great bill which prohibited local jurisdictions from requiring licenses for otherwise non-licensee occupations, interior decorators, interior painters. Now, although that law doesn't actually take effect until this July, we've now already seen local jurisdictions attempting to work around that by permitting the work instead of the occupation. So to someone to come into your home and replace your throw pillows, they now need a permit fee. The fifth issue, it's called the FEMA 50% rule, also known as substantial improvement, substantial damage determination. What this is that if you have a home that's within a flood zone and over 50% of damage of the assessed value happens to the home, then you have to raise it and build it up to current flood standards. The problem is there is an aggregate which is looked back on the 50% rule, which is set by the local jurisdiction. And we have seen aggregates of up to 5 years. So that means every single thing that you've done to your house, if you updated your storm windows, that's included in the 50% determination. So by the time you have any damage, if you've made substantial improvements, you have to burn it down. The sixth thing that I'll talk about, and this is, again, we're getting to the bottom of the list, so these are still ideas that we're kicking around, and look forward to working with our Florida Home Builders Association lobbyists and with all of you on some of these ideas. A real property transfer fee. It would allow local jurisdictions to adopt a local dock stamp fee as an alternative to exclusive impact fees. Now, the reason for that, and there are people that will think very highly of that and others that won't, but the reason for that is such a model would recognize the community impacts aren't solely created by new construction, nor is new construction the lone benefactor of impact fees funded community improvements. The final thing I'll mention is affordable housing and fully funding SHIP fees or SHIP funds and the Sadowski Trust. And I'm open to any questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So, good news for your organization. On your top two issues, we already have progress. We have a construction defect bill already filed. Representative Schneider filed that. And on the right side of your side over here, all three of us, it'll be in the judiciary silo. So we certainly, we have the chairman of judiciary to my right. So we certainly would love any feedback or input from your organization and others about that's an issue that kind of pings back and forth in the legislature every now and then. And on the second issue, I'm actually drafting a bill that will include that item. So that should come in next week or so.
Thank you very much. Would love to see that also.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Ballard. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you all very much.
Next up, Mr. Kevin Wright with the Manatee County Republican Liberty Caucus. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. I am Kevin Wright, Chairman of the Manatee County Republican Liberty Caucus. The Republican Liberty Caucus is a national grassroots organization. We work to advance the principles of constitutionally limited government, individual rights and responsibilities, and free enterprise. I'm going to present several of our legislative priorities, which we hope to make your priorities, and we appreciate the opportunity to do that. Florida Sunshine Laws. Florida's Government in the Sunshine Law provides a right of access to governmental proceedings of public boards or commissions at both the state and local levels. We do not ask you to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Case law clearly shows that the basic requirements have helped establish Florida open government. The problem arises in stating that the law is equally applicable to elected and appointed boards and applies to any gathering of two or more members of the same board to discuss some matter which will foreseeably come before that board for action. This broad, somewhat nebulous language has not only led to a cottage industry for filing or threatening to file lawsuits, but it has the unintended consequence of making local and county government in Florida relatively dysfunctional. Citizens' ability to interact with its government is more, not less, difficult, and government is less, not more, transparent. City and county officials ought to be permitted to exercise the same First Amendment rights that you all enjoy in doing your jobs. Local officials must be freer to discuss issues both outside and in public forums, even if not organized by themselves, and even if there's no published agenda. Sunshine laws prevent good governance because they inhibit the ability of elected officials to share ideas and concerns outside of publicly announced meetings. Sunshine laws, as written, give more power to government employees than to elected officials. The persons with the most knowledge about proposed upcoming policies and decisions is the administrator, superintendent, or his or her senior staff. The board members are prohibited from sharing their concerns before the public meetings, information they would have had prior, leading them to make less than fully informed decisions. Ironically, the Sunshine Laws also serve to make the jobs of local government staff unnecessarily more difficult and less able to carry out their functions on behalf of the elected body and citizens that they serve. Staff may only discuss most matters with the body as a whole or individually. Time is a limited and valuable resource, and this is a wasteful, cumbersome use of it. There's no publicly elected official exception clause in the Bill of Rights that says that government can restrict First Amendment rights just because a citizen is elected to public office. Sunshine laws restrict publicly elected officials from allowing citizens to redress grievances without prior announcement to the public. The Sunshine Law, as written, gives unnecessary advantage to long-serving elected officials at the expense of other members and the voters who elect them. In our experience, long-serving elected officials voice less complaint of sunshine restrictions because they've learned how to work with and around them. On contentious issues, this power of information allows great advantage over less experienced officials on the board who may have opposing views. The Sunshine Law as written makes government less, not more, transparent to citizens and voters. We participated and hosted a number of local candidate forums where we witnessed the dismay of those seeking to be informed voters and those challenging incumbents when denied asking or hearing or answering questions. The nebulous constraining language of the Sunshine Law that I cited at the beginning was the basis of this, whether it's being applied correctly or incorrectly. This unintended impact is the true of public forums such as social media and video teleconferencing as well. The Sunshine Law as written is unenforceable. A law which cannot be enforced are words on paper and little more. The Sunshine Manual poses the question, is an official and their spouse subject to the law if they serve on the same board? And the answer is, of course, yes. Consider a more common example. Are 2 or more board members who are lifelong friends or become friends subject to the law? Yes, they are. Short of 24-hour surveillance over coffee tables, in shared car trips, or in bedrooms, how can the law be enforced as written? It can't. While we believe that all sunshine laws which constrain freedom of speech should be eliminated, we propose a compromise solution which would have prevented the more egregious unintended consequences we have observed. Revise the laws from prohibiting the gathering of 2 or more board or council members to prohibiting a gathering of a quorum or more, as suggested by Republican Liberty Caucus member and Manatee School Board member Richard Tatum, citing Pennsylvania's Sunshine Law as an example.
Mr. Wright, we're well over the 3-minute time, and I appreciate your comments very much. I know you have a couple of other points. Can we bring it to a close, and we have your material in front of us? We certainly will.
That's great. The material covers, we also covered, just for the benefit of this, campaign finance reform. Well overdue is that. We are staunch advocates, as I know every one of you are, of the Second Amendment, preservation protection. Let's make 2023 the year for constitutional carry in the state of Florida. Term limits. We want to go back from, we want to have all elected offices to be the 8-year. That should be the standard, not 12 years for the school boards as well. We support Recall Florida and their efforts to allow unchartered counties like Manatee County to have the same powers as only 20 counties have to recall elected officials. We have some calls for criminal justice reform, privacy acts in accordance with the Fourth Amendment, education issues, government spending and taxation, and several government regulations. I'll leave it to you all to refer to the work that I have you. And we look forward to seeing you on the 14th and 15th of March when we will be up there in mass for our lobby days.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for your enthusiasm. We appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you as well. Next up, Conservation Foundation of the Gulf Coast. Sam Valentin, did I say that right?
Valentine, you got
Valentine, okay. Welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you on the importance of protecting land and water in Florida for the benefit of people and nature. And thank you for your past support to fund the Land Acquisition Trust Fund. Monies appropriated to Florida Forever through the budget cycle and use of $300 million from the federal COVID-19 economic relief package has significantly benefited this region and our citizens. Hurricane Ian's impact, on top of our community's recovery from COVID-19, demonstrates why we need more lands conserved. These protected rural lands held Ian's floodwaters, while mangroves and other natural coastal areas softened the tidal surge. Though our public lands and protected ranch lands saw damage, their native habitat is resilient and will recover. In addition, our parks and preserves have provided a haven for residents to find respite from these devastating events. So again, thank you. But of course, we have more to do. With thousands of people coming to Florida daily, homes are being built rapidly to accommodate this growth. We must be smart about where we build to ensure we are not putting people in harm's way. It is more important now than ever to protect the critical lands identified through Florida Forever, the state's Conservation and Recreation Lands Acquisition Program. Florida Forever supports a wide range of goals, including water resource protection, coastal resiliency, preservation of cultural resources, public access to outdoor recreation, and the restoration and maintenance of public lands. Purchasing conservation easements and partnering with local governments and nonprofits such as Conservation Foundation helps reduce the state's costs and management responsibilities. Within Manatee County, there are numerous properties still on and being proposed for the Florida Forever acquisition list, including additions to the Mayaca Ranchlands Protection Area. If conserved, these lands will provide significant ecological benefits to our surface and groundwaters and enormous recreational benefits to citizens and tourists alike. Conservation Foundation of the Gulf Coast and our thousands of supporters implore you to allocate the much-needed funds to conserve the special places here in Florida that drive our economy, safeguard our drinking water, help protect our communities from the impacts of flooding, and ensure our farms and ranches continue to produce food. Please support appropriating $300 million from the Land Acquisition Trust Fund to Florida Forever and provide increased funding for the Florida Communities Trust grants and the Rural and Family Land Protection Program. Our way of life depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you for being here. Next, Tampa Bay Estuary Program is Jessica Lewis. Welcome.
Good morning, delegation members. You probably know Manatee County is privileged to border 3 national estuary programs. I'm here today representing the Tampa Bay Estuary Program. Our mission is to build partnerships to protect and restore Tampa Bay. Last year we published a State of the Bay report. It brings together a wealth of information and data that gives us an overview of the health of our ecosystem. So I'm going to talk about a few key takeaways from that. We're going to talk about the deteriorating water quality situation in Upper Tampa Bay, the rapid loss of restoration opportunities across the watershed, and a marked increase in community awareness. Upper portions of the estuary show clear indicators of stress. For 20 of the last 22 years, Old Tampa Bay has experienced summertime algae blooms, resulting in poor water quality and seagrass losses. Seagrass coverage in this segment today stands at an all-time historic low. Funding support for solutions that reduce nitrogen loads, improve circulation, and restore natural water flow are top priorities for our region. Many of the solutions needed to improve water quality also offer benefits to the economy and our communities to make them more resilient to the impacts of climate change and storm surge. The recent executive order expanding the wastewater grant program scope is an example of the type of funding and policy solutions that we need to address these issues. You mentioned the desire to have media coverage of the great opportunities in an area. We're going to talk about the great opportunities available to us. Environmental restoration. In just the last 3 years, developed land in the Tampa Bay watershed increased by 15,000 acres, while environmental restoration opportunities decreased by 17,000 acres. Swift action in the form of consistent habitat acquisition funds is needed to take advantage of the remaining restoration opportunities in our region. We must recognize the important ecosystem services of native habitats to our coastal communities and dedicate consistent funds toward acquisition and restoration programs to meet regional restoration targets listed in the Tampa Bay Watershed Habitat Master Plan. The public is paying more attention to water quality than ever, thanks in part to environmental disasters like back-to-back red tides, statewide manatee mortality deaths, and Piney Point. Based on a presentation provided to our policy board in December, the projected closure date of the Piney Point facility is roughly December 2024, but there isn't yet a plan in place for management and maintenance of the property once that closure has been finalized. While the legislature should be commended, thank you for appropriating funds to close the Piney Point facility, a long-term funding commitment is still needed to ensure that the site is safely managed in perpetuity. Additionally, we will continue to monitor the long-term impacts that will, of course, come from the Piney Point disaster on seagrasses, wildlife, and water quality. The TBAP legislative priorities include creating and strengthening policies and long-term funding to reduce nitrogen loads, improve circulation, and restore critical coastal habitats throughout the Tampa Bay watershed. This work will not be done in a single fiscal year or legislative term. We must collectively commit to restoring and protecting the Tampa Bay watershed together. There are many ways to tackle these goals, and we welcome the opportunity to speak with each of you to expand upon those. Thank you very much for your time.
Perfect timing, thank you. I just want to speak briefly to the Piney Point, having been intimately involved in that as my colleagues along with me in securing the $100 million in funding for to get rid of the problem and then to restore the property. There is a lot of progress being made between the receiver, the property owner, and the governmental entities about long-term opportunities for that property. I've heard some very encouraging proposals lately that are not public information yet by different folks involved, but there is a long-term plan for restoring the property as part of the program, and then having a very productive use that would include a variety of opportunities out there. So we're watching it very closely and working very closely with those involved to make sure that happens, including our partners in Manatee County. But I think good news is around the corner, and we're very optimistic that's going to be a problem that will go away, and that it will be something that we can be all proud of for the future of our community and for the region. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you so much,
Yes, sir. Or yes, ma'am. Anybody else? All right. Next up, Mr. Jack May, President of Manatee Patriots. Welcome, Mr. May.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and distinguished panel of legislators. For those of you who are not familiar with Manatee Patriots, you might know us as Tea Party Manatee. We changed the name. We're finding that young people are not quite as familiar with the Tea Party movement as some of us who have that malady of hair where it turns gray and turns loose. So we are now Manatee Patriots. We are a local organization of conservative activists. We currently have 1,200 subscribers to our organization. Our primary focus is on constitutional education, local government, election integrity, and guarding our personal liberties. Now, the first item on my list is the First Amendment, Florida Sunshine Laws, and so what I'm going to say to that is what Kevin said, ditto. Okay?
Thank you.
I was looking for a pad. The other thing that we're concerned with is also a Second Amendment issue, the constitutional carry, which Kevin also mentioned, and I think that it just makes sense for the state of Florida to step forward in the area where there are no holdbacks and no restrictions to our Second Amendment. That's where we stand. The third item that I have is education and concerns local control and oversight. Just as politics are all local, we believe education is local as well. We have a great board right now with our school district, and we look forward to seeing great things happening. But being married and sleeping with an ex-school teacher, I have noticed that she has a tendency when she was engaged to work way more than 40 hours. And one of the reasons is because there's a lot of unfunded mandates that the state and the feds put on school teachers where the rubber meets the road. And consequently, the kids that are trying to get the education, those third graders that we want to read, we have teachers that are busy doing double duty for children that have been mainstreamed into the classroom. Those ESE students that before were not a part of that education process. Also, those who do not have English as a primary language. My wife, it was something to watch her put together a Spanish lesson plan. The only thing we know in Spanish is dos cervezas, okay? So that is something that is plaguing teachers. We got teachers leaving by the droves, and they're unhappy. And one of the reasons they're unhappy is that my time's up.
Take another minute and bring it in for a landing.
Okay, I appreciate it, because the other thing, sexually oriented media available to minors. In Oklahoma, HB 3702, in the state of Louisiana, HB 142. I think Oklahoma's law went into effect November 1st, Louisiana's January 1st. That law basically protects children from pornographers online. There's a requirement involved that you have to prove how old you are. From what I'm hearing now, they've run most of the pornographers that have websites out of Louisiana, and they're down to one who has spent big dollars just to guarantee the age. Also, Oklahoma's I think a combination of these two would be the best, because Oklahoma's also goes into the classroom, and it gives the teeth here, making sure that this happens is one thing. But when you give parents the opportunity to sue and attorneys the opportunity to get fees, it's amazing how well that can be policed. So I want to encourage you to look at this online issue that we have with pornography and how it affects our kids. We got other people that are going to speak to education. Listen to them well. We really appreciate the job you guys do. Anytime you got a Tuesday night available, come on down.
Thanks, Mr. May.
Chairman, if I could,
Yep.
sir.
Mr. May?
Sir, I'm actually working on that last issue. We had a bill last year that was not enacted, but we are working on that. So if you have some language or legislation or you want to chat, just contact my office.
Great. I know you're new to our group here, but I'm liking you.
Okay, I appreciate it. Good to be here. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming.
We all like him. Thank you. Next up, Operation Warrior Resolution, Kendra Simpkins, CEO. Welcome.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for allowing us the time to speak with you and for your great service to our community. I'm Kendra Simpkins, the CEO of Operation Warrior Resolution, also U.S. Army veteran. And what we do in the community is we're the leading mental health provider for veterans outside of the VA here in our local community. And we provide alternative holistic approaches. So 1 in 5 veterans are struggling with PTSD, and they're 57% at higher risk for suicide than civilians. And it's the leading cause of death for veterans under the age of 45. And PTSD is a risk factor for suicide. And the recent reports show that veterans can wait up to 30 days just to receive a mental health appointment at the VA due to inadequate availability of appointments. It also suggests that there's more variability that's needed for treatments outside of the VA. And in addition, veterans are seeking alternative and complementary medicine, those holistic approaches, outside of talk therapy and medication that is provided at Operation Warrior Resolution. And 89% of our veterans who are treated for PTSD, 89% are showing improvements and are no longer having signs of PTSD months after leaving our program. And we've also conducted brain maps that are on the second page of the supporting documents that you have. And that's the research that we've been taking that shows that our treatments are resolving PTSD and depression and returning brain functioning back to normal. And this is only in a matter of 1 to 2 sessions. Operation Warrior Resolution is requesting an appropriations this year, hopefully sponsored by Rep. Gregory's office, and they've been really gracious in helping us fill out that appropriations request. And this appropriations will go towards providing the holistic, evidence-based treatments and provide wraparound services for not just veterans, but also their spouses and their children. And we get them set up with treatment within 72 hours, and also it's no cost to them. So this is decreasing their risk to suicide. And this appropriations would also go towards providing our clinicians with that high level of training that's needed to make sure that veterans are getting the care that they need. And so it's also going to provide supervision for them so that we can continue to provide those profound results that you're seeing in our research. The veterans can only receive this type of treatment through Operation Warrior Resolution. And so this appropriations will allow almost 200 veterans, their spouses, and their children to receive these wraparound treatments that go for 3 months. And they can heal together as a family. And right now we have 10 veterans that are going to our location in West Bradenton to start one of these 3-month programs. They'll be with us for the next 5 days, and when they leave that morning, the Monday morning, they're no longer going to be that same person dealing with that same trauma that they once did. The last veteran who went through one of our previous programs said that the VA told her that there was nothing more that they could do for her. And now she no longer struggles with that trauma and chronic pain that debilitated her. So this appropriations will also assist us in reaching other long-term sustainability efforts. I met with the executive director of the Florida VA, General Major James Hartzell, and he is in support of these holistic treatments, and he hopes that we can bring more of these to Florida so that the federal VA can see the effectiveness of it. So I also encourage you to help support Florida veterans and their family members that come here to Manatee County to get the healing that they need through Operation Warrior Resolution.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you for your service here, but thank you for your service to our country as well.
Thank you. It's
Look
an
forward to
honor.
working with you. Thank you. Thanks. Next up, Making an Impact, Victoria Kasdan, Chair. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to the chairman, the legislative group. I'd like to start my discussion with one comment or one sentence. The first step to getting help is knowing where to find it. And that is why I'm here. I am the board chair of Making an Impact, a very small grassroots nonprofit organization started in 2020. We are the makers of The Guide. I'm known in the area as the Guide Lady. We have this guide that is in print and online. 4,000 guides have been circulated in the area that we serve, which is Sarasota and Manatee counties. What we do is we provide a guide with information on basic need resources, because the first step to getting help is knowing where to find it. And if you cannot find the services that you need, it impacts our entire community, not just the individual, the children, or the families. We have provided guides to every one of the law enforcement agencies in the area. All police departments, both sheriff departments. All nonprofits that provide basic needs services receive a free copy of the guide. We are now at a point where we can't keep these guides on the shelf. These guides help all of the organizations and nonprofits, many of them that you've already heard from. So when you support our organization, you are also indirectly supporting them. When they have the guide or access to the guide and they share this with their patients, clients, even your constituents, they are able to make a bigger impact than whatever that person, child, or family is there for, because very few people have just one need. And so we are looking for support. We're an all-volunteer group. At this point, the request and demand for our services outweigh our ability to meet the needs of our community. We would like to have some additional support to be able to do so. We also provide a disaster resource guide that was created in reaction to Hurricane Ian to help the local people with regards to finding resources who, in many instances, never had to look for those type of resources. And different ones that are in this guide are actually in this guide, our disaster guide. This gives information on how to get your trash picked up, how to get a blue tarp on your roof, how to get a lot of things that are occurring in disasters. This guide is currently being used by FEMA in our local area, our emergency management people. We are also currently in discussions with both school boards who are very, very interested in the guides, because they feel that when their staff has the information, they can help children and families overcome barriers to learning, because their basic needs can be met. So we would like to get your support for Making an Impact, and we believe it can help not only your constituents but our community at whole, all the nonprofits, law enforcement agencies, and faith-based institutions. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for meeting with my team. I was unable, as you know, to meet, but they were very impressed with what you have done or what you're doing, and I read through the guide as well and found it very helpful and useful, so thank you, and I hope my colleagues will, if they haven't already, have a chance to chat with you as well, and we'll see what we can do, but thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Florida Citizens Alliance, Ms. Deanna Brinkley, welcome.
Thank you for coming and listening to the boots on the ground. We're going to talk about education for a minute. My name is Deanna Brinkley, and I am representing Florida Citizens Alliance. There are currently 250,000 supporters and local leaders. We are excited to hear that Speaker Rennar and the governor will actively pursue a universal education savings account. Florida Citizens Alliance will very actively support this, but would strongly like to see it include 4 additional concepts. 1, be acceptable to Florida homeschool families. 2, expand the student funding organizations to include many charters. Arizona has over 50. Today, Florida only has Step Up for Students and AAA Foundation. More importantly, donors should have a wide range of choices. 3, allow individual property owners to allocate a portion of their property tax assessment to the student funding organizations of their choice. Establish a savings account for each student awarded an ESA. The Gardner Scholarship is a great model to follow. We would also like to see the Harmful to Minors Material Bill be strengthened to prevent exposure to the sexually explicit material. A strong opt-in bill putting parents in control of their children's education. Today, parents are required to opt in to play sports or even get an aspirin from the school nurse. The children should not be exposed to sexually explicit content without the parents' knowledge. We look forward to your help and commitment in protecting children and their innocence. And also to Kevin and Jack May's request, we also ditto the sunshine revisions.
Thank you, Ms. Brinkley. Do you want to roll right into Manatee Moms?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'm also here representing Manatee Moms. Today we're going to talk about social emotional learning, SEL, in the classroom. SEL is a theory that, in quote, is an essential part of education, which young people acquire to apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible, caring decisions. This all sounds great, doesn't it? But children are not adults. Giving children the autonomy to defy school administration teaches children that they have power without the worldview yet to process it rationally. Giving students the voice and teaching them to engage on issues is not giving students more responsibility. It is teaching students to use their emotions to react as activists. I don't like this, so instead of finding a calm, rational solution, I'm going to get mad and walk out. That does not help a student manage their emotions. SEL behavioral programming will accomplish little to nothing until administrators allow teachers to discipline students who are disruptive in the classroom. Disruptive students should be removed from the class and allow the rest of the students to learn. True, some parents do not parent their children, and some children have deep-seated behavioral issues, but all children should not be placed in behavioral training for the few students who might need it. Fads are ubiquitous in American public education, and they've only intensified with the increased federalization and bureaucracy of schools. Parents and educators are bombarded with claims that this or that new teaching method will transform student learning. Too often, this teaching method is just a repackaged version of another technique that was already failed. In a nutshell, it is the latest fad to send the same old message pushed for more than a century that education should focus less on knowledge of academic content and more on the student's attitude, mindset, values, and behaviors. The federal government is pushing SEL on state and local education systems through school accountability requirements, grants, and other programs. There are more than 100 federal programs and 7 federal departments and a multitude of agencies that are pushing this. And so far, there is no reliable, objective way that exists to measure a student's personality, value, or mindset. Corporations collect millions of data points on students every day. This software goes beyond assessing traits and enters a dangerous terrain of reshaping school children to fit a desired widget-like mold. The combination of technology, SEL, and mental screening being promoted in the wake of school shootings has ratcheted up the recent wave of amateur psychoanalysis in the schools. The lack of training among school personnel is especially concerning when highly trained professionals admit that they cannot predict who will become violent, and the data collected during these processes can follow children and their entire career with life-altering consequences. Decisions about what attitudes should be promoted, what interventions are used to modify behavior, and what sensitive SEL data is collected often occurs without notifying or obtaining consent from the children's parents. National spending on SEL in schools tops $3 billion. It's a $3 billion industry, and it's likely to increase. SEL has been federalized through numerous grants and nonprofits, and $122 billion through ESSER government funds, which was COVID. So the bottom line is that it is not the job or the role of the government to raise our children. I'm asking you to investigate, educate, and write policy to once and for all remove SEL, social emotional learning, from all of the Florida public schools.
Thank you, Ms. Brinkley. Thank you for the information. Any questions? All right, thank you. Next, we have Ms. Virginia McCollum, Minnesota Moms. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm a resident of District 5 here in Manatee County. I'm speaking as a volunteer with the Minnesota group of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. We have over 300 local volunteers, thousands in Florida, and 8 million nationally, and we support responsible gun ownership and work against gun violence in our communities. Guns are now the leading cause of death for American children. We have more guns in this country than people, and our communities continue to bleed as hundreds of families are devastated every day. As the legislative session gets underway, we ask for your support for policies that save lives and help keep our communities safer from gun violence. I stand here firmly with the majority of Floridians who oppose permitless carry. Polling during the 2022 election showed that 69% of Floridians are against allowing guns to be carried without a license or training. Any attempt to enact this dangerous legislation is a step towards dismantling our state's long-held culture of responsible gun ownership. Florida's current licensing system ensures that people carrying handguns have passed a criminal background check and have undergone firearm safety training, both of which are critical components of responsible gun ownership. Permitless carry is also a threat to our dedicated law enforcement professionals, the first responders who put their lives on the line every day to protect us. If you back the blue, don't turn your back on them and pass legislation that will make their jobs more difficult and more dangerous. States that pass a permitless carry law suffer a 22% increase in gun homicides for the 3 years after the passage, more than doubling the 10% increase for the country overall. We support solutions for responsible gun ownership that make our communities safer, like educational campaigns, secure storage laws, and the proposed Jamie's Law, named after 14-year-old Jamie Gutenberg, who was one of the 17 people killed at Parkland in 2018. If enacted, this measure would apply the same requirements to ammunition purchases as those placed on purchasing a gun. Gun violence is a public health crisis. Our children and neighbors are dying, most of them by suicide, and our communities are traumatized. Manatee County has the highest rate of suicide in the nation compared to all other cities with over 50,000 people, according to the Herald Tribune last October. In addition, nearly 80% of school shooters obtain the gun from their homes. I urge you as elected leaders to be part of the solution. Lives depend on bold action. As a constituent, I expect you to fulfill your responsibility to take steps to stop the bloodshed. Bottom line, more people will needlessly die if the dangerous policy of permitless carry is passed in Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCollum. Appreciate your comments. Next up, Mr. Uncontained 360, Mr. Glenn Jablina. Welcome again.
Ron Jablina for the record. Now, I love you all, but do not kill the messenger. I am a numbers guy and facts guy. So I wanted to start reading a little article here. How lawmaker raids the trust fund for affordable housing helped create the crisis. You're supposed to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. During the boom of 2002 under Governor Jeb Bush, the legislature started raiding the trust fund for other projects. Many of those projects had nothing to do with the housing. Here we are, 21 years later, and your bad behavior has not changed. Govern yourself accordingly. I come up here every year and I bring out these facts, and what do? Here's what you did last year in Senate Bill 2512, which would permanently divert Sadowski funds from affordable housing to environmental projects and sewer. What the hell does that have to do with affordable housing? You guys go so far off the reservation from the original intent of what those funds were for. Over the last 20 years, you have fleeced $2.4 billion. That equates to an additional 177,000 units we got cheated out of because you couldn't keep your hands out of the cookie jar. I don't get it. We're in a housing crisis, and you're here, you don't fix it. And then what do you do? You tell us, oh, we'll never do it again. What'd you do last year? Let me read something here for you. Okay, so last year, language was slipped into the back of the budget last year during the last week of the session, transferring $100 million from the Sadowski funds into the Hometown Hero. So now you throw it in the general fund, and you go up to the governor, hey, we got $100 million for our first responders. You fleeced it. You fleeced it from people that really needed it. And quite frankly, if you look at the program that says this is how you qualify, the same program we already offer, why not let the local governments, those guys would have qualified under Livable Manatee, they would have probably got more money for a down payment. Leave our money alone. Let our local government agencies that you send us Sadowski funds, let us distribute it. We'll take care of the firemen and all those other guys. You guys are unbelievable. You have to stop this. The bad behavior has to stop. Please. We need the funds every year. We are what's the number here? Crazy. 411,000 units we're short in the state of Florida. 43,000 in the state of Manatee and Sarasota. Please, I beg you, quit fleecing our money and put it where it deserves to go. For the record, Glenn Gibolina. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Stephen Gafanti, or doctor, excuse me. Gafanti, is he here? We have information in the binder that he has provided. If he shows up, we'll try to squeeze him in, but anyway, so we'll move on to the next category, Florida Fair Election Coalition, Michelle Martin. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I actually work with Citizens for Renewing America, and as such, I have had the privilege of being the director for the Florida Fair Elections Coalition for the last several months. The goals of the coalition are to raise awareness of the election process, get more citizens engaged, and then to act as a resource to our legislators and the executive branch. So we all know that we now count ballots and not votes. And so anybody who is serious about election integrity, and I hope that all of us here are, and I know the governor certainly is, we have to start by asking ourselves the question, how do we remove vulnerabilities in the law, tighten up those vulnerabilities, so that we know that whoever's casting the ballot is actually the owner of that vote? Okay, so in front of you, you have paperwork that has 2 QR codes, and those two QR codes are going to allow you access to see affidavits from a whistleblower, and you will learn about jump drives that are available in every county, and they contain the entire the voter list for that county. And you'll see from that affidavit that these jump drives are lost, they're misplaced, they're stolen, or not, I'm sorry, not lost, not stolen. They are misplaced, lost, and disregarded. So you all know from the last session that we have progressive billionaires who use nonprofits to influence the outcomes of elections. You know this from Zuckbucks, and you took care of that. So I want you to imagine that we have these jump drives full of this voter data, and if any nonprofit were to incentivize somebody within the SOE's office to provide them that jump drive, they would never know, because again, they're misplaced, they're lost, they're disregarded. You would never know. And this opens up unlimited possibilities for people to call for ballots, print them, sign them, mail them, and cast them. and we would never know, and the registered voter would never know, all because they are registered voters on that database, you see? So the goal is to make the vote-by-mail ballot as secure as in-person voting. And one step toward achieving that is to have qualified vote-by-mail. Now, we know from our work over the last several months that ballots are bought and sold by third parties. We know that signatures are being added to vote-by-mail ballots digitally through mechanical arms. We know that ballots have no secure chain of custody. And we know that canvassing boards have been authorized to determine voter intent, which I think is absolutely ludicrous, but there you have it. They are allowed to determine voter intent. None of these vulnerabilities exist in in-person voting. And so the goal is to increase the security of the ballots, and all of these issues can be addressed by law. We can address these. So the coalition has come up with language that can help you guys achieve this. And so I'm inviting you to, and I welcome the opportunity to show you what we have found so that we can ensure that every ballot cast in Florida is actually the vote of a registered voter. Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Charlie Kennedy with Daughtry Elementary. Mr. Charlie Kennedy and team.
Thanks, sir.
You're welcome. Glad you're here.
Good morning, members. My name is Renita Houston. I'm here with my colleague, Charlie Kennedy. We are the Community Partnership School Directors of Manatee and Daughtry Elementary here in Bradenton. On behalf of all of us at Children's Home Society of Florida, it's an honor for us to be with you today. Just last November, CHS celebrated 120 years of service to our state through our work in prioritizing children and building bridges for their success. We look forward to being recognized by the Florida Cabinet next week.
Senator Boyd and delegation members, we are really happy to be here this morning and appreciate the opportunity. We're really fortunate that we're here to speak on an issue in Florida and really nationwide that has a broad swath of bipartisan support, and that's how do we better educate our kids. In the example of our community partnership model, it's how do we better educate and reduce traumas of children and families that are living at or below the poverty line.
This model pulls together 4 more core partners. Manatee and Daughtry Elementary Schools core partners are the School District of Manatee County, Children's Home Society of Florida, the University of South Florida, Sarasota, Manatee. We also have the Boys and Girls Club of Manatee County. These partners have come together to make long-term commitments and investments in the students. This commitment starts with a 25-year memorandum of understanding between the partners.
We have a great update for you. Since the legislature very generously supported the partnership school model and Children's Home Society of Florida through the University of Central Florida, we are now up to 36 partnership schools. Since the closing of last session, 7 new schools have been added to bring us to 36, including my campus, Daughtry. We do statewide, and here at Manatee, which is on year 4, including its planning, have shown results of reduced absenteeism, increased school grades, increased after-school programming to support academics, and as well, we're retaining teachers at a higher rate. Just all of our metrics are trending positive, not just here in Manatee County, but statewide. And we appreciate the $7 million that was allocated last year, and we're here to just ask for your support to continue and expand the model.
Which is why we're here. We are requesting the legislator increase funding to a total of $11 million to continue to implement the model here in Manatee County, and also expand this proven model to impact more students, their families, and the communities.
Representative Robinson and Representative Gregory, we appreciate you know this model firsthand. You've been on campus, you've seen it at work. To Senator Gruters, Senator Boyd, and Representative Beltran, we'd be happy, and I'll follow up with your staff when you're out of session to come by and take a firsthand look at the work we're doing. And we appreciate the opportunity today. And it's been a long morning, but we're almost there.
Thank you. Great tag team. Thanks for what you're doing, and thanks for focusing on kids and their futures. That's Very important. Thank you. All right, next, and where are we? Stand for Health Freedom, Bailey Kuykendall, is that right? Did I say it right?
It's Kirkendall. But it
Kirkendall.
just doesn't look at all.
Where's the R?
I know. I ask that question all the time. My name is Bailey Kirkendall, and I represent over 500,000 medical freedom advocates who are not interested in being mandated or told what to do with the health and wellness of their bodies or their children's bodies. I'm thankful to live in the state of Florida, a state that stands up for the rights of parents, the rights of the individuals, but with what has still transpired even this past year, we have more work to do. The amount of profiling, the amount of discrimination, segregation, termination, denied exemptions, denied service, injury, and death stories that have come pouring in due to the injection remind us that Florida is not yet a free state. Floridians have been coerced and made to feel like second-class citizens due to their medical decisions. It's unconstitutional for a government entity or a corporation to require a person to participate in specific medical services in exchange for access to gainful employment or to participate in society. What is the solution? Sound public policy that does not allow for mandates, specifically by making discrimination based on your vaccination status in both the workplace and the public square prohibited. The bill we are bringing with Senator Joe Gruters protects both the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, as it's their choice and they must not be discriminated against for choosing it. As most of you know, the protections that were put in place during the special session carried a sunset clause, and that date is the end of June this year. So this session, we must pass legislation that protects the rights of Florida citizens to say no to any type of medical procedure or injection. But we are seeking protections that live beyond a single year. We want to protect not only our future, but the future of our children. I believe this issue goes beyond the COVID crisis. We see this as a civil rights issue of our time. We have a perfect opportunity to step up and protect the individual and the medical choices that they make. Passing the bill will make Florida once again a light for liberty in what has been a very dark tunnel. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ms. Kirkendall. Representative Gregory has a question.
Not a question, just a comment, Chair.
Yeah,
if that's all right.
absolutely.
I agree with you. This is a great libertarian political policy debate of the day, and I just want to point out that I definitely recall meeting with you several times over the years, and that your advocacy here is not a response to COVID and the unlawful mandates that you saw around the country, but in fact something that you've been working on for many years. I know since at least 2018 when you reached out to our office, so appreciate your advocacy here.
It's good to see you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And finally on the agenda, before we get to public comment, is Ms. Andrea Griffin.
I know you guys are probably tired, so I do apologize. But my name is Andrea Griffin. I'm a Manatee County resident. I'm an activist here in this county. And some of the things that I'm bringing forward to you guys has really impacted me personally over the last year. And so I've got three items that I'd like to talk to you about. One is more information on sex trafficking. From my travels around the United States this year, I believe those numbers that we're receiving statistically are much lower than what the real numbers are. So in order for us to start correcting a problem, we have to see what the true problem is. So that's the first thing. The other two things are very important to me. One is I'm trying to get some way, this is not something just the state of Florida can get on board with. This is a United States type of issue. And it's a centralized database for our children, the children that are in child welfare. We have issues that go across state lines. If a person is in trouble here in Florida, they only have to pick up and move to Georgia. And there's no real communication from state to state with these cases. Many kids have died. I'd like to note a Harmony Montgomery case out of New Hampshire, which really solidified the problem that we have from state to state. She was missing for over 2 years before they ever found out she was missing. She's dead. Her father killed her. The statistics are alarming with our young children. The young children are more likely, if they're age 5 and under, more likely to be, if they're missing, to be injured by their parents as opposed to stranger danger. So this centralized database is definitely necessary to protect our children across this country. A very personal issue to me is cyberstalking. Since I've been going out over the last year, this is something that has become personal to me. It's happened to me. It's not fun. We need stricter cyberstalking laws here in the state of Florida and abroad. This is a danger. It's a progression. It starts with cyberstalking. Then they start coming around. Then they start bumping into you. Okay, there are people that are losing their life across this country. I'm only focused here on Florida. A good example of that is Doug Live from Northport. Jane Sturquist, another YouTube creator, stalked him online, went to his home, assaulted him. He died in the road. This gentleman ran off like a coward, leaving this man to die. Thank God he's alive. But this is serious. This is serious to me. Some of the impacts of this stalking is, PTSD-like symptoms, not wanting to come out of your home, not wanting, like for me, I traveled for a year, so I didn't have to deal with it. I'm back, and I have my voice. I will not be victimized by this. But we have to have stronger cyber-stalking laws. And I think the cyber-stalking laws have to be intent. Because people look into people, let's be honest. We all do it, okay? We all just go here. If I want to know where you're going, I'll probably go on your Facebook. Right, it could be construed as cyber-stalking. But there's no bad intent. It's when the intent is there, that is where we need to start strictening and tightening up this law. Because my life matters. I don't want to get killed because I do social media. And that's where this is going. So God bless you. I hope you guys can help me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are now going to move into public comment time. We have a minute allocated for each of the public comment folks, and that'll give us, I think I have 10 cards. That'll give us 10 minutes, and then I want to reserve some time at the end for my colleagues to be able to speak to anything they'd like to before we adjourn at noon. So please help me stick to that time. First, Ms. Kim Bailey with Feeding Empty Little Tummies. And she will be followed by, so you can kind of be in queue and on deck, Dr. James Whitman. Welcome, Ms. Bailey.
Good morning, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak on Felt's mission. Feeding Empty Little Tummies was created by Jane Evers here in Manatee County. What started in 3 elementary schools, feeding 70 children, we are now in 57 schools in Manatee County, and the last week of the 2022 school year, we fed 1,415 children that would otherwise go without nutrition in our community. And Jane's favorite saying was, "This is not going to take place on my watch." So I'm here to implore that when funding is available to assist us in feeding our members in our community, please think of our most needy, and that is our children. They are the biggest number of welfare recipients, but whether they receive the proper nutrition due to their parents and the people that are taking care of them, we can't control that. But I can guarantee you that the food they get from Feeding Empty Little Tummies meets the caloric intake guidelines from the University of Florida and from the Manatee County dietitians. So I thank you for this opportunity. Please think of us when funding is available.
Thanks, Kim, and thanks for what you're doing. It's a great organization. Dr. Whitman speaking of criminal justice reform, followed by Meredith Morrow. So, Ms. Morrow, if you'll be ready.
1 minute, huh?
Welcome. 1 minute. I know it's going to be tough, Doctor, but you can do it.
I have had the privilege of knowing several of you, and look forward to knowing the rest. I'm a lifelong Republican, current member of the Manatee County Republican Committee, former president of the Longboat Key Republican Club. But I'm going to speak on an issue that's not typically Republican, but it is related to my profession, which some of you know. I'm a psychiatrist. I've worked in Florida for over a decade, exclusively really in the Florida County jail system, taking care of inmates in county jails. So I know whereof I speak in this regard. And so with regard to criminal justice reform, it appears to me that Florida is behind the curve with regard to decriminalizing simple marijuana possession, and I urge you to consider doing something along those lines before a constitutional amendment is proposed and passed by the citizens of Florida. Many Republicans are in favor of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for your service, too. Ms. Meredith Morrow, followed by Joseph Molnar. Welcome, Ms. Morrow.
My name is Meredith Morrow. Thank you for having this. I'm here on behalf of Sarasota County Moms for America and Moms for America nationwide, as well as the Republican Liberty Caucus, which you guys have all experienced us coming and harassing you during love you days. Okay. What we're talking about, we brought in a packet with our wants for the Moms for America with medical freedom and parental rights. I'm not going to go over that. It's a long page. But my number one issue is election integrity. And I've met with you guys last year, and what I found working with the supervisor of elections and doing registration is, do you know that in order to register to vote in Florida, you do not need to show a proof of residency. You only need to sign up with your Social Security number. What I'm asking is that, it's a simple ask, hopefully, is to get required that Florida driver's license or Florida ID and Social Security number instead of or. That's it. That's my
a
passion.
blast. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry for the short time frame. Mr. Joseph Molnar, I'll let you, where are you? Here he comes. His organization speaks for itself. Followed by Ms. Sarah Parker. So Ms. Parker, if you'd be ready. You have 1 minute, sir, please.
Thank you for your time. Obviously, we're here on behalf of Septic Sucks. Septic Sucks is a volunteer organization of upset citizens demanding action and no more political double talk. It's time to stop and clean up the septic tanks that are destroying our water quality in our communities. The facts are simple. Florida has over 2.7 million septic tanks, with 36,902 located in Manatee County. Florida Department of Health reports that septic tanks are especially vulnerable during large storms, such as the 2 hurricanes Anna and Nicole that hammered Florida this previous hurricane season. For more than a decade, the state of Florida, universities, studies, and common sense has told us that septic tanks are harmful, causing algae blooms, killing seagrasses, not to mention the danger to human health. So we're just here to call on the state to act and develop a plan to have all existing septic systems either upgraded to include nutrient removal technology or converted to central sewer by 2030, and to support Governor DeSantis in the expansion of the Clean Waterways Act as a way to ultimately upgrade our water treatment plants. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think there's a person on this board that doesn't agree with the fact that we need to deal with it. So thank you for your information.
Thank you.
Ms. Parker, followed by Ms. Sametz, I believe. Ms. Parker.
Sametz. Y'all, everybody always gets her name wrong. My name is Sarah Parker. I am the president of Women's Voice of Southwest Florida. I know you guys are expecting me to come up here and chant my body, my choice, but I'm actually here for another reason. I have teamed up with the Hollow 2A to come here and ask, instead of a Confederate statue, we ask that you go to Manatee County Commissioners and use your voice, and instead of a Confederate statue, put a statue up for fallen and missing soldiers. We are tired of the divide. Women's Voice of Southwest Florida, and also I am a part of BLM, are so tired of the divide that we have sat down with someone completely on the other opposite side, because we want our community to be strong. We want unity. We are tired of the red meat issues. We are asking you now to please reach out to the county commissioners and tell them to focus on county things, like the people that are contacting us that need help, the people like after Hurricane Ian, we fed over 2,000 people just out of my friend's kitchen. Just me, Kate, and a couple other organizers. We had the Proud Boys bring us pasta. We're here to work together, and that's what we want. That's what we believe Florida is. We want Florida to become an oasis of freedom for everyone. That means everyone that wants to decide what they want to do with their child, and that even goes for drag queen bingo. And I think it's so important that we can start showing everyone across Florida that we can show that we can have unity, that we can be that idol, we can be those people.
Thank you. Ms. Sametz, followed by Jason Saffels, I believe. Please.
All right.
I was prepared for 3 minutes, so I'm going to pick and choose here. I apologize. Katie Danahy Stamets, for the record, resident of Manatee County, founder, vice president, Women's Voices, Southwest Florida. First, I want to thank y'all for the time and look forward to seeing how you do represent the entirety of your constituents in this upcoming 2023 legislative session. I'm going to start with repro rights. We're expecting to see yet another abortion ban be pushed forward in the upcoming session, and I would hope that as state legislators, you are implored to stand beside our Article 1, Section 23 right, guaranteeing our right to be let alone and free from government intrusion to our personal lives and decisions. I'm here to ask, I apologize, again, 1 minute, I was prepared for 3. I'm here to ask that when the bill was proposed, you remember how this community came together with over 2,500 people marching through the streets, and we shut down the extreme 6-week abortion ban that was proposed in Manatee County by commissioners in 2021. If your personal convictions are to combat abortion, please do not impede on our rights or autonomous freedom. Please work to establish and provide the resources to the constituents that are proven to decimate. 3 minutes, I'm sorry. Can I email you?
Yes, you can. And you can feel free to reach out to any one of our offices anytime.
Thank you so much. And if I might just have one closing sentence, how do you build a bridge? You have to work with people on the other side. I just want to echo Sarah's sentiment. We are tired of divide. We would like progress and unity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jason Sapples, followed by Chris Johnson. Welcome.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to address the Manatee County delegation. My name is Jason Sapples. I'm with Central Florida Behavioral Health Network, where you're managing entity for substance abuse and mental health. We oversee approximately $250 million in annual allocations to serve approximately 120,000 people in treatment and millions more in prevention. Our services go to those who are expectant mothers, those with serious mental illness, and those experiencing chronic homelessness. We just wanted to thank you for your continued support of the Managing Entity Care Coordination Program. Sorry, I'm trying to really speed through this for you. This key service helps reduce recidivism rates for those who are in the high need, high utilization category. We'd also like to thank you for your $126 million in reoccurring funding in the last legislative session. That's really unprecedented. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We've been able to expand because of that. Mobile response teams and family intensive treatment teams throughout the Suncoast region, and a community action team here in Manatee. Also, just like to remind you that we're statutory allowed to our administrative rate up to 5%. We're currently at 3.7%, so we're significantly below it, and we're a best value for Florida's taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you for your service too. Mr. Chris Johnson, followed by Kyra Lamb with Mike Turner. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, thank you. My name is Chris Johnson. I am the CEO of Suncoast Partnership to End Homelessness. We are the lead agency for the continuum of care in Sarasota and Manatee counties. And I wanted to literally take 1 minute of your time this afternoon to make you aware of the Florida Coalition to End Homelessness, the legislative priorities for 2023, of which we all support. By all means, the COCs across the state all support these. The second one is the one that I'd like to at least bring to your attention, which is the Department of Children and Families legislative budget request to increase reoccurring homeless challenge grant funding to $15,657. These funds were originally going to be a $5 million ask that would be specific to housing through the state office or through the Florida Housing Finance Corporation. These are now being rolled into the challenge grant, and as a collaboration between all of those, DCF, FHFC, the COCs, and Florida Coalition and Homelessness, to make those funds available to local COCs for local impact for housing. So it allows the COC to partner and leverage Sadowski funds, FHFC funds, and SHIP funds to build housing locally.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Next up, Ms. Kyra Lamb and Mike Turner. I think they're going to tag team it, I hear, or I see. Welcome.
Mike Turner. I'm a 25-year employee with Manatee County 911. Kyra Lamb, she's the 911 coordinator for our agency. We're here to ask for your support in legislation to reclassify 911 telecommunicators as first responders. We're currently designated as clerical staff and support. And our peers, other first responders we work with, recognize us as first responders. The business community, when they give out discounts, recognizes us as first responders. 19 other states in the U.S. Have reclassified telecommunicators as first responders. And this legislation, the state took a good step in 2012, requiring all public safety telecommunicators to be certified and to meet certain curriculum criteria to become certified. So that step was taken, and we want the next step to be for us to become first responders, reclassified as such.
Thank you. Hey, we're good?
Oh, that was good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And then finally, we have two more. We have Miss Jeannie Russell. She's not here. All right. And then we have Linnell McAllister, I believe it is. Welcome.
Today I'm representing Guardians of American History. We're a citizens advocacy group promoting preservation of our public history, and we want to thank each of you for supporting Danny Burgess, I never get his name right, Juan Burquez, Fernandez Burke, you know who I'm talking about, and Governor DeSantis in their courageous stand against the woke mob, and including our language in protecting our perishable cultural and historic resources. Unfortunately, cancel culture continues in the efforts to erase our history, and so House Bill 1 was an important step, but we're asking for a little help this year. It's not going to cost you a dime, and I'll let you go have lunch. Citizen standing so that interested parties have the ability to access our court system. That's what we're asking for. Please contact Governor Camper. He'll be contacting you to explain a little bit more details, because I'm not a lawyer, but the Judiciary Committee, we hope you'll look favorably on the proposals.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. And we're going to go to my colleagues' comments, but I want to thank all of you all for your attention today, your time, and those of you that have stuck it out until the end with us. We appreciate that, and we have heard everything you have said. We take it to heart. We take it very seriously, and we will do our best to do what we think is best for the not just our community, but the state of Florida. I'm going to go to my friend Senator Gruters first, because he said the nicest things about me earlier. So, Senator Gruters.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for taking the time to listen to all these issues. And like I said, we look forward to going to bat for our communities up there. Bye-bye.
Representative Robinson.
Thanks for everyone that came out today. Senator, thanks for your staff, your team, for helping us with this meeting. You should be chairman forever, I think, because you did such a great job. We're excited about the upcoming session, and really thank you for coming in front of us. It's actually one of my favorite days of the year to see you all and what is important to you. So thank you for coming out and sitting through a long meeting.
Thank you. Representative Gregory.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Wow, we witnessed a moment there in those 1 minutes, to have Sarah from BLM and Vic from the Hollow sit together and jointly propose something. That was something. I've taken away three things, besides focusing on building roads and infrastructure and parking garages. For me, the things I'm taking with me, just so you know, the words shall not infringe. Not just words on paper, they're words on paper that need to be enforced. Balanced budget. Love your advocacy, Mr. Gibolino. Love it. But I'm proud that Florida balances their budget even when they make tough choices. I wish DC could learn to do the same thing. And in a similar vein, term limits. I'm so thankful that we were able to finally impose term limits on the school board of 12 years when before they had none. But nobody from the commander-in-chief on down needs to serve 8 years or more than 8 years in any elected office.
Thank you to the city of Bradenton for hosting this, and thank you, Senator Chairman, for your leadership. It was good to hear from everyone. We got, I guess, 3 local bills done today, so we'll be seeing those in Tallahassee.
Thank you. And just a quick thing on the local bills for those of you that care. We pass them as a delegation, and then it goes through the House. The House presents them and passes them if they so choose, and then they send it over to the Senate for our approval. So that's the process this goes through when we get back to Tallahassee. And finally, I'd like to say, again, thank you, Glenn. I think you're still here. I wanted to mention this earlier, and I didn't want to get too sidetracked, but affordable, attainable housing is something that's critical to all of us. We recognize and understand that. The Senate, our leader, Kathleen Pasadomo, the Senate president, has a passion for this. She's had her staff working all summer and into the fall on an attainable housing bill that I think is going to make a big difference. I can't speak to the House, but I know our colleagues in the House are working on similar initiatives that will hopefully be able to join up together before the end of session and pass some really reformative change in terms of what we can do there. So stay tuned for that. I don't want anybody to think we don't acknowledge the issue and that we're just kicking the can down the road. It's a critical issue to our state and will be, as many are, but that one is vitally important to us. So I appreciate everybody being here. Thanks for your support. Please reach out to our offices if there's anything that you didn't hear today that you'd like to learn about or you'd like to talk to us about. And with that, we'll adjourn.